All right, man. It seemed like that music was going to take forever. Welcome to What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris. This time, I kept Robert hanging. I see him smiling in the background. Let's bring him in. Of course, guys, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them and to share them far and wide. The best place to follow us is below. Don't forget about Robert's 1776 Law Center, which sponsored love this annual poll, what we do, Robert, which sponsored this very important work that needed to be done. So now here we are. You know, I mean, remarkable how close everybody else's polling was, Robert. First of all, you know, how are you? Before we get into it, let's exchange the pleasantries as usual. How you doing, brother?
Absolutely. Good. We have three major topics to cover today. The first will be the sort of a condensed version of what we've covered before, but to remind people, since they often seem to forget, including in the White House, what the impact of war has been. Voluntary wars of choice have been on American politics going back a century plus. The second is what were some of the most popular populist policies, to do the alliteration, of the 1776 Law Center National Survey. There's a unifying theme: no immunity, another one, no war. There's a combination of ones that we'll get into that. For those people that are out there campaigning for office, if you're running for the House, you're running for the Senate, you're running for state legislature, you're running for governor, you're running for city council, county commissioner, these are the future issues of a populist platform that will be the most successful. Senator Rand Paul was sharing the polling data this past week.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Identifying the popularity of some of his proposals. And so we'll get into that. And then third, we'll get into predicting the Texas primary, what some of the early vote trends indicate. And I'll do an updated list of where I think things stand currently for the House and the Senate from our, we took a lot of crap from our November predictions right after the November elections.
Sure did.
Maybe it was early December where we went through how bad things looked in the House, if there was no course correction, that Democrats would win the Senate. Barnes and Baris have fallen off the they hate Trump now. They have TDS.
They want TDS.
Yeah, I mean, just like I heard all last week, and I said, look, there are plans to put troops on the ground, and we know what the source of that was, and these people were like doing memes of that particular source. You were looking from the certain debate, and I was like, pal, you have no idea. And of course, what does Trump confirm today? What does War Secretary Hegseth confirm today? They are indeed considering putting ground troops on the ground in Iran. So all those dimwits, halfwits, and midwits can send in their apologies. But yes, that will be our three topics for today. And if you have any super chats, any questions, put them in a super chat. We'll get to those as well.
Yeah, I just want to show people, and I'm not jumping the gun here. I just want to show, because if you want Locals Book Club yesterday with me, yesterday afternoon, you already saw this. This has been a project that I've been working on for a while. DDHQ put together. We'll hope, Robert, that the models are are working a little bit better here. But during elections, we're going to be able to test it and run through the whole. Thank you, love. Run through it very, very soon, because we have Texas coming up, which Robert and I will talk about. But I did just want to show people really quick, Robert, like what this looks like. It's absolutely, it's incredible. Unfortunately, too, it's a very, very, very bad trend for Republicans, which we'll go over. But on election night, we'll have very detailed, notice there are tabs for early voting. I could show you the difference between early voting and the election day returns, right? How many requests still, right, that are out. We are seeing some issues. That's the state's fault. And then here is the winner. And by the way, Tallarico, yes, he's leading in the Emerson poll. I don't want to get too far ahead. He's leading in the Emerson poll, which shoots some of that modeling up because we're missing some county data. So honestly, I'll save that, but I just wanted to show that for people right away. Just don't forget Tuesday night. You're not going to be anywhere else. You're not going to want to be anywhere else, because, and the reason I'm bringing this up now, guys, is because I want you to remember, as Robert and I are talking about Iran, that for 6 months, Robert, people have, as I've showed the administration, and I told the administration time and time again, we just did a poll. I'm going to put a headline of it up right now. the voters were very clear. They were saying for months since Donald Trump bombed Iran the first time, which is when I said, good job, your approval rating will never go back positive, and this is it. People who said, folks out there, people who told you last year that the bombing was no big deal, this wasn't about regime change, it's not going to derail anything, Robert and I are going crazy, blah, blah. We're just smarter than those people, and you should unfollow them. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, Will Chamberlain was Mike Davis's little gimp was cheerleading for lockdowns when Robert and I in 2020 were telling Donald Trump it will destroy his presidency and his chance for re-election. That happened. Then this is amazing because like all of these non-MAGA people, and Will was not MAGA, neither was Mike Davis back then. He was typical establishment rhino until people like Bannon, you and I elevated him. All right. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Like when we tell you MAGA has fractured, all right, and these other idiots tell you they haven't, understand they're not MAGA. They've never been MAGA. They've never understood MAGA, and they opposed him the whole time. In fact, Chamberlain supported the lockdowns. All right. So did like the Bonchi Red State crew. They supported the lockdowns, then supported Ron DeSantis over Donald Trump because they said Trump was too bad on the lockdowns. This is how non-MAGA these people are and always have been. They always have been. So don't tell me you know what's in the mind of MAGA when you haven't interviewed a single person. You never supported him anyway. Are you the pollster who went through all of the shit? Are you the political gambler who went through all of the shit for 10 years because you predicted Donald Trump was going to win the presidency? No, you're a latecomer, beggar and hangers-on who doesn't know a fucking thing about the average American person. You hid in your ivory tower. In your ivory tower law schools, in your little Ivy League law schools, behind your cute little violin lessons. We got Ben Shapiro over there. Then you what? Hid behind a keyboard and a fucking microphone when you're all old enough to have joined the military after 9/11. So don't sit here and lecture us about your moral supremacy while you took the bitch route and decided to make money while the rest of everybody else got bullets thrown at them. So, like, this is unbelievable. That's why they never understood MAGA to begin with, Robert, because here's a core thing when it comes to the mindset of real MAGA, true MAGA, the core of MAGA. It's the lie. It's the lie. The lie that any of these wars are ever in the interest of the American public, let alone worth sacrificing for another foreign, worth sacrificing freedom, liberty, our own prosperity for a foreign nation. That is why this is so crushing to him. It doesn't matter if Iran goes well. It doesn't matter if it goes bad. What we do know for sure, whether it goes good or bad, is that there is no domestic agenda anymore. He won't even have time to give the perception to the American public that he gives a rat's ass about them. This is what these stupid, small-minded little morons don't understand. Last year was a disaster because you and I knew we would end up here. Last year was a disaster because you and I know how DC works. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either the blob wins or the American public wins. That's it. There's no in between. They can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And this asinine, before I throw it back to you, this asinine argument from the Red State crew and all the big cons for a reason. All right. They were never MAGA. They have always been cons. This ridiculous argument that Republicans were going to lose anyway. So, fuck it. Let's bomb Iran is the dumbest thing I've ever heard for the reasons. Number one, you didn't have to lose. This didn't have to happen. I didn't have to spend a shit ton of money to show the vice president a better way forward. I didn't have to do that. They had another way. They chose to go this way. They chose. They could have scaled up the better get out the vote operations, Robert. They could have done and championed some of those policies with 80% support across the board. They chose not to do it. Secondly, even if you did lose, you tried and you lost. You would have lost by a lot less than you're going to lose now, which is what Robert put up on X. Robert, go over it. After you start a war like this, how does it go for the incumbent presidential party? What's the history?
Exactly. The Jeff wants to know if I'm going to tell people to gamble. Jeff, I'll gamble you. You're stupid enough that taking your money is a is a moral necessity. We can't allow stupid people to have too much resources, hogging the resources. So, Jeff, you could DM me. I'll be happy to take your money. You're too dumb to be part of public discourse, and we got to take your money for the sake of the country. Just got to do it for the sake of the country.
Jeff, did the Iranian people throw off the oppressive regime? Are they?
I thought it was supposed to already happen already.
Begging for freedom. Come
exactly. But to the so here's the condensed version of what Richard and I went through last summer. You can go back and watch that. We went into all of the data, massive amounts of data, not only about how Americans approach Israel being involved in our conflicts and in general, but also about U.S. military action and the political consequences of it. So there have been two wars that were considered defensive wars or reactive wars in the last century plus. That was World War II after the attack at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
I have a hush-hush at vivabarneslaw.locals.com if you want to see.
Roosevelt plotted, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Voted them in.
But in terms of the American public, they believe they were attacked first. And that was a reaction to war being declared against us. And in Afghanistan, there was enough so that they thought that was about 9/11. Now, over time, they came to have doubts about that. But those were the two conflicts that were reactive conflicts. Let's talk about the proactive ones. Wars we initiated our involvement in. World War I, Woodrow Wilson, peak of the progressive movement, had his incorporated Teddy Roosevelt's Bold Moose movement into his party. And that was burgeoning. And there was the possibility of democratic progressive dominance for another decade plus. He ran in 1916, kind of like our current president, on keeping us out of war. Yeah. Then in 1917 he got us right involved in World War I. And so what was the consequence of that? The consequence was the Democratic Party would be wiped out for the next 12 years of political power across the country, in any competitive area not controlled by the one-party South. And the net effect of that was it took a Great Depression for the Democrats to bounce back from that fatal decision to enter World War I.
Yep.
Then we have Harry Truman enters the Korean War. The Korean War would sink his popularity completely, and it would gift the Republicans and Eisenhower 8 years in the White House. That it took someone as charismatic as John Fitzgerald Kennedy to break through. Otherwise, we may have had, multiple. Nixon may have been another 8 years. Then you have Lyndon Baines Johnson enters war in Vietnam. What would that do? 20 of the next 24 years, the White House would be dominated by the Republican Party in rejection of the Democratic Party's warmongering. Bob Dole would famously say in the vice presidential debate of 1976, the only race they could sneak out a win on, and they managed to only sneak out a win after the prior president had been impeached or was on the verge of being impeached. That's how bad the vestigial memories of Vietnam were. Nixon got us out of the war. He didn't start the war. Bob Dole rat wars. You can go back and catch that in the Midwest. Then you go forward. Eisenhower kept us out of war. Ronald Reagan kept us out of war. Richard Nixon got us out of war. What has infected every president since the fall of the wall, since the end of the Cold War. Poppy Bush gets involved in Iraq War I, looks intensely popular, 90% plus approval ratings. Within a year of that war being over, he's out on his ass and gets the lowest level of support of any presidential incumbent in recent history, since 1912. And then you flash forward. What does Bill Clinton do? Bill Clinton goes to war in Serbia. Yeah, it was just a bombing campaign, 75 days, all that jazz. Far less risk than what Trump is doing in Iran. But what happens? It likely cost Al Gore the 2000 presidential election. Now, Bush might have had some help from his brother in Florida, but that's another story for another day. And what did George W. Bush run on in 2000? We don't need to be the world's policeman. The American people keep voting for the anti-war candidate and keep getting the pro-war candidate. The joke is no matter who you vote for, John McCain ends up in the White House on foreign policy. Then what is George W.
War started for Israel. Let me just say like that to let you finish that. But the tail end of that we heard all over the weekend, which we will have transcribed interviews. If you think the Gallup poll was a sign, which by the way, Robert and I were also right about, the Gallup poll showing for the first time more Americans sympathize with Palestine. If you think you heard negative sentiment towards Israel before, oh my God, this weekend was bad. Oh my
no,
God. So if
no
you
doubt
ever
about
cared
that.
about the state of Israel, you should have listened to Robert and I. Instead, you didn't.
No
And
doubt.
You're
And that doesn't even get into the geopolitics of what's happening with the Royals. Then George W. Bush, of course, infamously gets us into Iraq War II. That would so sink the Republican Party and break apart that coalition for forever. There's some in the Republican Party that don't acknowledge this. That in 2006, massive Democratic sweep of the House and the Senate. 2008, they would get all three branches of government. Barack Obama would come in. And again, Obama would have an opportunity, just had an opportunity to create a lasting coalition and blew it over bombing Serbia. George W. Bush would have an opportunity to build a post 9/11 security mom coalition. But of course, he had to go into Iraq all over again. And the net effect of that is by the time that war was over, within a year or so, considered its hot period over, the 2006 Democrats would sweep the House and the Senate. George W. Bush would be a walking dead man. They would lose by 8 points in the presidential election. And now Barack Obama would have the same opportunity that Poppy Bush had, that Bill Clinton had, that George W. Bush had, which is to build a lasting coalition using millennials and Zoomers combined with this sort of professional class shift to build a permanent Democratic majority across the country, as long as they would just stay loyal to what Barack Obama got elected on, which was no more wars. And what does Barack Obama do? He bombs Libya into a black hole, causing that chaotic reign to dominate. His anti-war coalition drops out of the 2012 election. The millennials then drop out of the 2012 election. He has to beg black voters to come back and keep the first black president in. And without that, he would have gone down in 2012. But what did it do? It cost Hillary Rodham Clinton the election in 2016, because that allowed Trump to be the anti-war candidate and Hillary the pro-war candidate. Trump flirted with just enough language and conflict that, as Richard documented in late 2020, he was losing the anti-war vote in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota.
Yes.
And that would cost him re-election. If he would have stayed with a firm commitment, he would have dropped a lot of the machismo of his first term, even though he avoided any new wars, because he didn't get us out, even though he had ordered the military to. They betrayed him and didn't out of Syria. He didn't have the guts to go forward on getting us out of Afghanistan, though Colonel McGregor was brought in for that purpose. And the net effect of it was there was enough voters who had doubts about his anti-war credibility. And that allowed Biden to get in. Of course, Biden gets in. He gets us involved in a proxy war in Ukraine that is part of, and disastrously, the way in which he withdraws from Afghanistan combined leads to and he lets Israel go nuts in Gaza. The combination of that is that he is seen as the pro-war guy. Kamala Harris is seen as the pro-war candidate. And one of the proxy questions we asked in the recent 1776 Law Center survey, one of the most predictive polls out there, is which party do you think is more likely to keep us out of war? Whichever party is leading on that issue. Usually it corresponds almost precisely to the margin in the midterms or the margin in a presidential election.
I don't think anybody knows that. Go ahead. I just wanted to say.
And for people, this survey question we mirrored and copied from the American National Elections Studies. I think it's the University of Michigan that's been doing this since the 1940s. And that was the first time they started recognizing this incredibly consistent pattern. Whichever party American people thought would keep us out of war was the party that would win. It was the most predictive question of any question for the last 60 plus years, almost 70 years going, because it goes back to the 1948 election. So and when you look at that right now, and this was done before Trump went into Iran this time, before he was already losing this by 8 points. Republicans were down by 8 points on the question of which party is more likely to keep us out of war. Right now, the Democrats, the anti-war mantle for the anti-war voter has shifted from the Republicans to the Democrats by a margin we haven't seen since 2008, and that was before Trump goes into Iran. We're soon going to see that this polling number, which Richard will keep polling on throughout the year, we will see, and my prediction is, this number will now be in the double digits in favoring Democrats, the biggest margin since 2006 and 2008. And what that means is that we'll get to the later stage when we get to the predictions. But if this continues to trend in this direction, you're going to see the biggest Democratic blowout in modern American political history coming up in these midterm elections, because you can't. The other thing that compounds it for Trump is two other factors. So one, general bias of Americans against war, even if they say they like a war while it's happening. Within a year or two of its culmination, they're against it. Ask Winston Churchill. He got thrown out of office in the UK right after winning World War II, people. With the FDR and Truman, FDR is dead by that point, but the Democrats lost the House for the first time ever right after they won World War II.
Yep.
So this has been America's political history has been consistent on this.
Yep.
Fundamentally, we dislike war, particularly war we don't think benefits us. And they punish the party or the president that initiates a war
without fail. Without fail. Okay?
Every single time.
Yep. I just want to say, guys, there is like a lot of predictive indicators that go into election projection. Voter registration used to be incredibly predictive, and it still is. It's just that in 2020 was a little odd of an example. But you know what did stay and remain a predictive indicator? Who do you think is less likely to keep us out of war? Just put all the big three Rust Belt states up to show you. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. In 2024, you could see that Trump had a slight edge over Kamala Harris. In some of the surveys, which are our surveys and others, because I think Pew did it too. A lot of people did it. The margin's almost identical. Almost identical. So if in our poll in Michigan, it was Trump +2, right? It was the first sign in 2020 that Trump had a Midwest problem. First in Minnesota, they said Biden by like 13. Biden won by 10. All right. In Ohio, they still said Trump by like 7. He won by a little bit more than 7. Very, very, very close. It mirrors it. I also want to point out real quick, Robert, that like I am showing all these other polls. Not that I'm a fan of G. Elliott Morris and the election mafia, but his article yesterday was absolutely true. You can't argue with it because he was just simply showing the historical facts, right? Like the fact is that support for these things tend to start as high as they're going to get. I put a poll up before from YouGov that showed the highest level, which is what Elliott Morris focused on. Because let's just say YouGov, which is more than other polls showing Republican support, right? Even if that's right and everybody else is wrong, the Republican rally effect leaves 4 out of 10 Republican voters behind. That is the same level of support Republicans had for military action under a Republican president that Bush had in 2008 for Iraq. That's how historically low this started. They never sold this. They didn't spend any time selling it when most of, and I just want to point out Peter Baker's article yesterday. And apparently they had Tony like check my work. All right. So did you see the article from the New York Times, Peter Baker's? 21% support for this is what the president's pollster handed him, which is identical to the poll that we handed them. All right. Which shows it was like 70% opposed, 21%, 22% support. It looks like Tony got paid to copy my crosstabs. And I mean, it's identical, it's identical, like it's totally identical. And yet they still did it. So don't sit and pretend like, you know what, if you support it, that's fine. But my point to you is it's been how many 6-7 months since Robert and I first started like shooting the flares in the air. We don't want any of this to be true. Unlike apparently everybody else, I still think the Democrats are the biggest threat to this country. I still think our biggest problem are here.
Democrats are the greatest threat. You should have been out there. For everybody out there, I hear this. You want Democrats to rule? No.
You're a fraud.
And that means you should go out there and advocate against these policies that sink the Republicans.
Yep.
Because you're sitting there saying, oh, whatever you do, don't vote Democrat. Don't let Democrats seize power. But go ahead and cheerlead when Trump is making fatal decisions that are terminal for the Republican Party in the midterms.
Terminal. This is what Robert just explained to you guys was like almost 100 years, actually was 100 years of U.S. political history under close to, because 1917 we had at the Senate, the popular vote, direct election model. This is, again, without fail, the trend. People are going to argue, well, what about 2002? It was popular. We were attacked, and it still didn't last. He got one good midterm because the invasion occurred right before the midterm, and it was popular according to Pew at the highest of 70.
And often at the beginning of these conflicts, it is.
Yes,
at times, in Vietnam was popular. At times, Korea was popular.
Yes.
At times, both Iraq wars were popular. At times, the Panama invasion was popular. But the only one that was and several of them were even popular at the end, like the first Iraq war. It didn't matter because voters say you care more about foreign countries than you do about me.
Yes.
That's what they take away from it, and they always punish you. It may take one cycle, 2 cycles while the war is going on for it to happen, but that has been the invariable, inescapable trend. So those people predicting, I see people say, "Oh, it's not really a war." Okay, good luck with that argument. While Trump is talking about putting boots on the ground in Iran, wake up, folks! But Secretary of War Haig said, is talking about putting boots on the ground in Iran. That's how insane this is. In terms of its political, and we're just talking about the domestic political impact. I have, as Richard has, geopolitical doubts about how this will translate in the war. But as what we've been trying to emphasize now for a better part of a year is it doesn't matter if the war goes well. It is seen as a betrayal by Trump. The other things that hurt Trump. So one,
doesn't matter.
You have this long trend in America punishing people that get us involved in war, often punishing them for decades in terms of what happens. Second, the failure of almost every single war since the end of World War II is slowly saturating into the American mindset, and such that they are deeply skeptical of the excuses proffered for these wars because there's always lies to get us in. Scott Jennings was busy trying to repeat a lie over the weekend.
That's a watered down lie. Let me just blow this up right now. What they were really telling everybody behind the scenes is that, because I know I was on the Charlie Kirk show when they were trying to get us all to believe this. They were making phone calls trying to tell us all to see this, but they didn't want to be seen as saying it, because when it inevitably turned out to be untrue, they didn't want to be mocked like Bush was mocked. The Israelis told them they could set off a dirty bomb in the Middle East. I kid you not. That's the real truth, Scott Jennings. You left that part out. And they decided to drop the dirty part because they didn't want to be associated with the WMD lie. They were like, well, if this goes bad, we don't want to just be thoroughly memed and mocked into oblivion, and with like the George Bush memes. That's the bullshit, the last minute bullshit that they tried to sell. And let me just respond to somebody who said, well, you're leaving out the insider advantage poll. Hey, listen, I know Matt. I like Matt personally, but if you believe the insider advantage poll, do you also believe in these? Because that's what it takes for you to believe that bullshit. I'm going to leave it there, and that's it. I'm sorry. I like him as a nice guy, but give me a fucking break. This is so unpopular. You couldn't fudge you couldn't wait till like R+12 to make this fucker positive. All right?
Yeah. Well, and for people, you're going to see fake polls from Insider Advantage.
I'm thinking you're going to see from the media too, because they like Barry Weiss, CBS, all of them. Like they.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to see fake polls from Robert Trafalgar. You're going to see fake polls maybe from another prominent pollster. Just hey Ted, be careful before you sacrifice all your credibility.
I didn't say it.
You're not saying. I'm. This is just me saying it. I'm just speaking for myself. That it's very apparent to me that some people have either been intimidated or bribed into putting out fake polls. I get it. If you're on the right as a pollster, it is brutally difficult to economically survive.
There's no money
because the media won't hire you, the universities won't hire you, Democrats won't hire you. So you're often at financial risk and subject to extortion and coercion and bribery by the Republican Party brand.
No money for honest right-wing pollsters.
When I see Mark Mitchell suddenly disappear from social media in the build-up to this war, I can draw reasonable inferences. And I know what they've been trying to do to people in my position and other position. The message was, shut up. If you want to have continued access then to any aspect of the administration, then you better shut up about any problems with the war, any problems at the Justice Department, any problems with the Epstein files. And then it was followed up with threats that, maybe bad things could happen to you with Pam Bondi at the Justice Department. I suspect that you're going to see a lot of influencers suddenly shut up. People that were longtime anti-war people suddenly pretend that they were always pro-war and that Trump was always pro-war. I mean, I see people saying, oh, Trump's been campaigning on this since 2015. No, he's been campaigning on exactly the opposite since 2015.
Let me address that real quick. Listen, because we're all politicos, and oh, by the way, what Robert said, there's just two things I want to say to that. Like, look, those guys are going to have to speak for themselves, and they're going to have to defend themselves at a certain point. For me, I never gave a shit about that. Like, I did not do this. I did not get into this and become like a public. I could have stayed private, never in front of a camera. I didn't do that because I care about access or because I care about this or that. And luckily, my business model is not built on whether a party likes me or not. I don't take like Trump's PAC money, the RNC. Like I don't do that. Which is why, by the way, that video I sent you of that leftist, I'm serious, man. I think we'll talk after, but like that guy should be sued. He defamed me. Like that is total bullshit. That's not true. And I want to make an example out of them because they want to use my polling now to like twist the left-wing narrative, to help the left-wing narrative. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let them do that and defame me. Like, you know what I mean? But on the rest of it, like I just assume not do it, Robert. You know what I'm saying? Like I would just rather not do it than lie. Like I forgive me for being the last idiot who really believes in George Gallup's philosophy, which is that this thing cannot work without honest public polling. The republic is too big. It's too big. Like lawmakers, presidents, everybody, like the government has to know where the constituency really stands. Otherwise, this will completely fall apart. They have to have some trust in the public polling. Like one of the owners of Real Clear Politics and I were talking about this. Like what the left was doing with public polling for years is what the Mexican, the corrupted by the cartels, the Mexican incumbent party all throughout the late 90s and the early 2000s were doing. Like those polls were totally fake. The elections were fake, but they knew that the polls had to mirror the election results. Otherwise, people would like, hey, what the hell's going on? And the system would collapse. Like, we can't have this. We can't have this. There has to be somebody who's willing to lose 100,000 Twitter followers to tell the truth. Somebody has to do it. Everyone can't be for sale. This doesn't work this way. And by the way, I mean, look, I survived when I told people in 2018 that we're going to lose the house. I survived when I told everybody COVID was a stupid idea. The lockdown is a stupid idea. I'll survive this. You know what I mean? That's all there is to it. I always suspected, that eventually, because I watched, speaking of Gallup, I watched Obama go after Gallup. So I always expected that somebody eventually would come for me. I just didn't expect it to be this. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I thought it would be Biden or Harris or Newsom or.
I mean, we were both on plenty of bad Biden lists. And no question, I did not expect this administration to at times be more corrupt than the Biden administration. But the Justice Department is, aspects of the Defense Department are, aspects of other parts of our government are. And that's just, unfortunately, what's taking place. And I think if Trump should look at the warning signs associated with this war. Last time he took the advice, I mean, I personally will never pardon Trump for violating and breaking his promise to Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry, and I know at Turning Point, they're kind of admitting this, but not to the scale I think they owe Charlie to do, which is that Trump promised Charlie Kirk he would not do regime change war in Iran.
I do want to talk to you, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk to those guys.
Later.
I think a lot of them are sincere and mean well. I understand the pressure they're under, that the donors don't want. I mean, Charlie was under this pressure.
They do mean well. They're in the shittiest position. They do mean well.
Oh, absolutely. I like them personally. But it now is when you have to take a stand. Charlie was willing to risk everything to take that stand, was willing to go right to the White House and demand this from the president. And the president gave it to him, said, okay, when we go in, we will not do a regime change war. We won't do it. That's what he promised. And I, for one, am not going to forgive him for breaking that promise. But that's just my own take. You other folks can do what they want with it. I do think Turning Point would benefit from having more anti-war voices. For the love of God, don't put Mike Davis on at all. Mike Davis is a felony, corrupt, criminal, unregistered lobbyist selling out MAGA on a regular basis to line his pockets with corporate cash. He's a self-described cuck for Israel who cheered on genocide in Palestine. That's who this guy. He's the worst possible representative of anything populist. He's anti-populist. He is a seditious traitor who belongs at the bottom level of hell, using Dante's Inferno as my guide. And so that's who he's a traitor at core. But my recommendation to Turning Point is you got to have more strong anti-war voices to respect Charlie's legacy. You can't be pretending like it's 3 years ago before Charlie progressed into the anti-war position that he developed. He also understood, this is just for their own credibility, with the young voters that we've been talking about, including young evangelicals, they are not pro-Israel. They don't like these wars. So Charlie was being honest and respecting his constituency and his community by voicing these concerns as well. If they turn into Turning Point and see nothing different than what they can get at the Daily Wire, then what's the point of Turning Point? So they got it just from a recognizing and respecting their audience. They need to have more anti-war voices. They need to speak out. We have no doubt. If Charlie was here, this war doesn't happen, because I don't think Trump could have done it and looked Charlie right in the eye.
I actually do believe that. Just to agree with you, I do believe that. I think that we're all really feeling the absence of Charlie greatly right now, because it would have been, look, why? Because Charlie was promised last year's strikes weren't going to lead to regime change or an effort at regime change. Charlie was concerned, and I mean, there are other people obviously know him better than me, and I know they're in a really crappy position, and I know personally they are anti-war, but I do hear you and I hear others who think that they're not being more forceful about it. Now, I know what Blake was trying to say, because I was on the phone with the clip that, that's in question. All right, where, just for people who don't know what we're talking about, the clip, all right, in question does make it sound worse than it actually was. And I totally understood what Blake was trying to say, because I knew Charlie, like, he would have tried, of course, to rally behind the president, but I just don't think we would. I think your point is also valid, which is that he wouldn't have had to, because he wouldn't have done it with Charlie here. It's like very difficult to be able to do that. And by the way, I think I think the situation with Israel would have gotten more volatile if Charlie was still alive, because they were trying to bully him and he wasn't going to be bullied. I'm telling you. All right. So why? Again, this is why. Eventually, it doesn't matter how many donations you get if your room is empty. This is what young voters, this is Trump on election day. His approval with younger voters, which, by the way, is not his high. His high is during Doge, when Trump and Elon Musk were at their full height of ripping Doge apart and dismantling USAID, and they were still on good terms. That was Trump's high, his all-time high. So this is actually a modest representation of the shift. This is just February 18th, because I got a spoiler alert for you guys. His approval rating over the weekend is lower now than it was in the poll that Robert and I did for the 1776 project, which, by the way, if you go look, it was overall 42. It is.
I mean, more people hated him than even liked him. His very unfavorable rating was higher than his somewhat and very favorable rating combined. Now that number is getting worse.
That's what the first thing that threw me as sus with some of the other polls that we saw come out, was that his strongly approved rating was like 40%. Guys, there's no way you can do that unless you weight Republicans way too high. And his strong approval is like 19% right now. It's very, very bad. His strong disapproval is 44%. And that's the saddest part about all of this, because we saw ugly numbers like that. He never got a honeymoon in his first administration, man. So like, he always was running against like the enormous tidal wave of the swamp and the normal, like, presidency and celebration as a country. He didn't get that. It was so unfair what they did to Donald Trump in the country. It was unfair to the country, because we saw optimism and positive sentiment, and they squashed it by doing that to him. This time he rolled in with a minimal strongly disapprove that we just hadn't seen. It almost looked like the hate for Donald Trump that was so palpable in the first administration was gone. It was a beautiful thing. He could have steamrolled everyone. His first mistake was choosing and backing John Thune, which I know what he's doing. He's playing the long game to make sure he doesn't get convicted in the Senate. Mr. President, I'm telling you right now, once Lindsey Graham's primary is over, he will vote to convict you. Mark my words. Bookmark this shit right now. He has already turned on Trump 3 times. Not only will he not be the Democrat whisperer, all right? And by the way, if Paul Dance isn't a threat, then why is Crystal Civita running bot campaigns against Paul Dance? Because I can put the picture up right now. Paul put out a nice thoughtful statement. And those are Chris bots. There's like 20 followers. They haven't posted since 2022, since he fired up the bots the last primary season. I mean, this is bullshit. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like X has become like, it's just a cesspool of money, dirty money in politics. But in any event, going back to this, he had an opportunity because his strong approval, and you can see it if you guys go to big data poll. This is his younger voters, but if you go to the approval center, the presidential approval center on big data poll, you'll see what Barnes just referenced right there, which is that his let's do it, Robert. Let me put it up so people can see this, because like you can't understand it unless you look at the chart. This is I mean, it's just sad. It's like watching a Greek tragedy. That's his overall trend. We're going to update it soon. It's much worse than this now. And you'll see that 43%, which is strongly disapprove, the dark slender line, the dark red slender line, is actually higher than the total percent of people who approve of him. It has gotten worse. Even in this poll, it was only a 20.7% in the one you and I did together, 20.7% strong approval rating. That's lower now by about 2 points. And the somewhat approved took a real hit. There is the one good thing, man, is that there's a lot of people waiting around to say like, okay, let's see how it goes. But it doesn't matter, because what you said on X is the bottom line. This was never about whether or not the war effort would be successful. And I can give people insight into how the president came to the decision he came to. Like, he literally saw the data and drew the absolute wrong conclusion. He said, you know what? Maduro got more popular over time. If we do this right, this will get more popular over time. And that's why I lost my train of thought, but why I brought up the G. Elliott Morris article is because that is exactly incorrect. And I think what happened is the president knew. He just did what a lot of us do. We talk ourselves into believing something we want to believe when it's not true. We suffer the illusory truth effect afterwards, no matter how much evidence gets put into our lap. Robert, we deal with this with jurors a lot. It doesn't matter. Once you've convinced yourself something, the lies that we will tell ourselves. And by the way, evidence can actually serve to backfire and get you like more deeply ingrained, because it's easier to accept the lie than it is to accept the fact that you were wrong or your worldview is wrong. So like he did that. And G. Elliott Morris is right. The longer it goes on, there's not been, the longer this goes on, the less popular it will be, period. Especially while bodies are rolling in now. Bodies. I mean, Robert, the body.
Yeah, there's coffins, flag draped coffins coming back, and we'll have more. I mean, it looks like there'll be a lot of efforts to lie and hide the information. There's already efforts to claim that Kuwait friendly fire somehow took down three of our jets. It's most likely Iran that took those down, but we don't want to admit that or acknowledge that.
That lie will come out later. Yep.
Yeah, it'll come out a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Well, everyone was saying there was no casualties. It was clear because of the hits in Bahrain that there was in the CIA operation there were casualties. Other hits that took place at different military bases, there's casualties. And so there's already many Americans dead. The only question is how many. There'll be a lot more if we put ground troops on the ground. A couple of weeks ago, I put out that the White House was contemplating plans that had 10,000 plus casualties. But you're making up, Barnes. There's no plan to have troops on the ground. Of course, we already now know there is in fact.
I blew it up. Did you see that? They're pissed. I know they're mad at me. I blew it up about the polling. Marjorie Taylor Greene retweeted it, so like it obviously saw. Yeah, I blew it up, guys. I mean,
the White House did a poll to estimate how many casualties Americans would accept in the Iran war, and it included a calculation of 10,000 or more. That meant that somebody in the White House thought that was a possible or even probable outcome, depending on what path they took.
It's true, guys. It's true. I know it's true. I know for a fact.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I saw the polling, by the way. I saw it.
And remind everybody, Richard, how many casualties did the American people they would accept for a regime change in Iran?
The answer in the poll, very clear, 0. They wanted no part of the war, and they demanded 0. No dead Americans for Israel and Iran, like over Iran for Israel. They had no appetite. Again, like I said, guys, they even brought in Tony then to go double check some of this shit. Like, they knew that is true. And I thought it was important. Doing what I did is one of those things that can really like burn you and get you in trouble. but I really thought it was important for everybody to fully understand, because I don't care, guys. If your principles change depending on who's in the office, they're not principles. Okay, like if you want to be like the left, have at it. But understand there's only about 20% of you. Like, you're real loud online, but in the world, you're not near a majority. You're not even close to a plurality. And the more and the only reason why it looks like the president's supporters are getting more and more fervent is because the number is shrinking, and you're purifying your ranks through subtraction. I just wanted to bring, it's one of the things I wanted to say. I also went, which I knew would embarrass him. I live near it. JD Vance's old post. They're incredibly they're incredibly proud that this is the vice, but they love the vice president. They're incredibly proud that this is his old home. I didn't even know it until he told me. And then I realized, oh, that's why they wanted him at the ball so much. Like, they were bugging me. Hey, can you please make sure the vice president comes to the ball? In the end, he didn't. I forgot what happened. It was an honest thing. I forgot what happened, but he wound up going to the Commodore ball instead. But they were ready to roll out the red carpet for him. We had talked, and I'm going to see if I can get some of them to go on camera and go on the record. But understand, there's repercussions for going on the camera when you're wearing a uniform. They didn't want this war. They're very upset. I'm talking about Marines, people. And by the way, the Marines are being mobilized because they have always been contemplating boots on the ground, okay? Or at least they don't want it. Trump doesn't want it, and he will push back against it. But they have been mobilizing them because they knew it was a potential. Like, you can't hide it here. It's everywhere. When you live near a military base, you can't hide that kind of mobilization. I just spoke today, and it was hilarious. I didn't even have to ask around to see who would want to talk. Two guys immediately recognized me. They were middle-aged Black Marines, typical of the Trump coalition Black vote. Pissed, scream, not yelling at each other, yelling and having a conversation, because they're like, I look like, one dude flat out said, I look like an idiot to my auntie, because I was like, no, Harris is a warmonger. Harris, if you don't want me overseas, don't vote for Harris, auntie. And now he's looks like an idiot. You understand, guys? You understand Black culture? You have under 50-year-old men lecturing their families about why the Republican candidate is actually the better candidate for them in their lives, and then they do this shit. You have broken a level of trust that if you don't understand this, I don't want any of this to be true. I'm saying it because it is true. It gives me no pleasure to say it. That guy will not vote Republican ever again. Those two guys, they won't vote probably, Robert. I'm not saying they'll go out and run and vote for a Democrat, but I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. And by the way, one of my neighbors is very, very much in that demographic. I don't know. I mean, it didn't sound like he was ever going to participate in the political process again. It's like one of those, which may sound like it's hyperbolic, but guys, Robert just went over it with you. The Ross Perot coalition, which was a lie over war and no new taxes, that's what led to the fracture of the Ross Perot coalition. This is going to make the Ross Perot coalition look like a paper cut. This is a way bigger betrayal, guys. And not only a new war, but in the Middle East.
And before this even happened, we've surveyed, what would happen if Thomas Massey ran as an independent. Yeah. By the way, there's no evidence that Thomas Massey plans on it. No, I was running just to give people, I wanted a sense of where is the zeitgeist out there, particularly amongst these independent voters that feel no connection to either party, that are deeply populist voters whose ranks are growing because they're leaving the MAGA identification, leaving the Republican Party identification, and shifting over to independent. Both parties are a bunch of crap. I don't share anything in common with either one of them.
Yep.
About a third of the country said both parties are most likely to get us into war. I mean, we pull it. Thomas Massey's already getting double digits when half the country doesn't know his name. I mean, that's where it gives you an idea of that if Massey, with this war and other things, someone like a Massey could get 20% plus more than Ross Perot got in 1992.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think people need to start understanding that is very possible. I mean, right. Not very possible. In fact, I don't know how they write this, but we're not there yet where I'm ready to say this out loud, but like, look, there's a Trump supporter going for Massey right there. Central Valley. Bet you he's Hispanic. No, he's white. It's she, actually. Under 30,000, some college associate. This is exactly the kind of a Central Valley working class, kind of. I bet you that woman's a newer Republican.
Old Bakersfield country music fans, those kind of folks.
Here's another one. This one is in the Iron Range in Minnesota. Trump voter will go for Massey. An independent, an older one too, Polish. Religion is actually Jewish. That's interesting. This one's actually educated too. Ooh, boy. It's just why? Because that's the libertarian RFK part of Trump's coalition. That was the stupidest reason for going after Massey in the first place, was that you're attacking that wing of the party, which is a part of your coalition you will need. So when they lose, and they will, a bunch of congressional races by like 2 to 4 points, guys, understand that's what you did. All right. Yeah, that's what you did.
And the other two reasons why, in my view, Trump couldn't afford this conflict, definitely can't afford it to continue and extend, is that Americans are, Americans deeply have an anti-war trend to always punish parties that get us involved in war, going back a century. Part two, we've had all these disasters of wars since the end of World War II that have sat in the mind of the public to where they distrust the propaganda for the war, and they distrust that the war will ever serve their interests. But last but not least, it goes back to read my lips. This was a read my lips promise by Donald Trump for 10 plus years. Read my lips, no new wars. Read my lips, no endless wars. Read my lips, no regime change wars. He said it again and again and again and again. In October, he and Vance were talking, back in the summer, he said, by the way, if I'm elected president, there will be no war with Iran. That's what he said verbatim. The J.D. Vance went and did the whole podcast circuit, said, no war with Iran, no war with Iran, no war with Iran. Stephen Miller was running around saying the big difference between Trump and Harris is no war in the Middle East, no war in the Middle East. No, you cannot break this kind of promise to voters and they not punish you for it. That's the hubris of the White House is about to meet its nemesis in the old Greek tradition. And that nemesis will be voters holding them to account for lying to them for 10 plus years. That's why he couldn't do this. That's what Richard and I tried to make clear to everybody in the White House. This is a line. This is a red line for a key number of your voters that you will never win back. Yeah. That's why I said, shifting into predictions, a 95% chance Democrats take the House, even if the Voting Rights Act is set aside, even if they manage to redistrict in time, which is big doubt.
House is gone now.
Yeah, it's gone. And it's likely going to be big margins. To give you an idea, the only House seat that is safe is a seat that Trump won by double digits. If he didn't win it by double digits, it is up in the air. That is how bad things are heading and trending. Second, 85% chance Democrats lose the Senate. These nimwits were responding to, I want to bet you on that. I'm like, I'm happy to bet you on that. Would you like to bet on that? And then
you meant Republicans, just so everybody understands. He meant Republicans. 85% chance he's saying Republicans. You said Democrats.
85% Democrats win the Senate.
Yeah.
So 95% chance Democrats win the House. 85% chance Democrats win the Senate. They're going to win Maine. They're going to win Ohio. They're going to win Iowa. They're going to win Alaska. They're going to win North Carolina. They're going to flip those 5 seats, and they're going to add the other Alaska seat because Murkowski will flip as soon as the Democrats are even 50-50.
Especially if Collins loses. That's what she has said. Especially if Collins loses, she's out. And especially, if it costs, she's hoping she wants to do this. She wants to stick a knife into Trump. So, what do I mean? Guys, let's say there's a Collins loses and it ends, but it's okay because JD can break the tie. She's killing that. She's going to leave the Republican Party, say she's an independent, caucus as a Democrat. She has told this to multiple people. I know this for a fact. This is 100% true. This isn't speculation. This isn't rumor. She has said it multiple times to somebody I know who's close to them. Same person I knew with same sources. That is how I knew ranked choice voting was being done through her office. It's true. She will do this, and she may not even have to. I mean, Robert, if they win it outright, she'll do it too. But I'm talking about if Democrats win the Senate outright, she'll do it too. But as you're talking, I'm just going to pull up 270. But I don't think RCP has their map up yet. I'm going to need my own interactive map here real soon. But I just want to show people where according to the National Republican Senatorial Committee before this war started, where their own polling was. All right. And I'm gonna, because people are like, you're crazy, Robert, Richard, you're crazy. This is where, so you could talk, because I'm gonna, if you want, while I go through and do this, if you want to, I'll show you exactly what theirs showed. Collins was down in Maine. Alaska was blue. Oh, look, Alaska is friggin' blue in this chart. That's because of the polling.
Alaska has a strong libertarian streak and a strong anti-war streak. Maine has a strong anti-war streak.
Yep.
Ohio has a strong anti-war streak. Iowa has a deeply, deeply strong anti-war streak. This was the tipping factor. If he went to war, the Senate was dead. And it is dead. Whether anybody out there wants to recognize it, realize it, believe it. And if you don't believe me, I'm happy to wager with you, because you're too dumb to keep your money. It's for the sake of society and the country that I take your money. That's just the reality of it. And then I think Texas and South Carolina are up for grabs, depending on who gets
in the NRSC poll, which mirrors a poll that we did, which I can't, obviously, I'm restricted from saying. 30% of the Republican Party says they will not vote if Lindsey Graham is the Republican nominee. That's how bad the MAGA malaise was before the war. In Texas, if Cornyn wins, which I don't think he will, but if he does win, it's almost the same thing, just a little bit less than Lindsey Graham. So you can see from Republicans not voting well compared to Democrats. And primary turnout, guys, is predictive of general election outcome. It is. So I know a lot of people are like, come to general, they'll vote. Bullshit. We haven't seen it in 25. We haven't seen it in the elections we have in 26. It's not true. Primary turnout is extremely predictive of general election outcome, even in a state like Texas, where we're seeing just
that's a good bridge to show people what's been happening in Texas.
Let me put it up, actually. Yep. Just so people understand, Robert. Democrats have actually cast more than this. I don't know why. It looks like some of these things got taken back. They're probably verifying the data with the county levels, but I wrote it down, so it's okay. It's actually over 1.5 million ballots that were cast on the Democratic side already. Here's something I want to show you guys, okay? Donald Trump, for instance, won. Yeah, there's some early. That's why, Robert. There it is. Okay. Starr County, there are currently 8,231 early primary votes in Starr County already. This is a county Hillary Clinton won by 33 points, and then Trump shifted all the way to only Biden plus 5 in 2020. He would go on to win it by 16 points in 2021. Some counties are extremely, extremely helpful in helping us predict how certain demographics are going to vote. By the way, Pennsylvania, yeah, that's true. But I was thinking more along the lines of New Jersey. They, in the governor's race, that state particularly as well has some very good counties for predictive value when it comes to subgroups. And it told Robert and I that not only were Hispanic Trump coalition voters not voting, it was worse than that. Those who are voting are going back to the Democratic Party. Donald Trump won Starr County with about as many votes that Democrats have already cast early in that county. Kamala Harris only won about 6,500 votes in 2024. So that is, guys, there hasn't been this huge surge in population. What is happening, and we know because we know who they are. Okay, like in the voter file, I can't show everybody personal information, but like if I open up L2 right now and show you the absentee ballot tracking data, you will see that these were Trump voters that have now participating in the Democratic primary. Texas is particularly interesting because party registration, it's basically like an open primary. It doesn't matter if you are Republican and you don't, there's no, obviously in Texas, doesn't matter. You pull a ballot from a certain party, so it tells us where you've been voting. And we can tell you right now, there are Hispanic voters who were new members of the MAGA coalition, and they're gone. They're voting back. And by the way, neighboring Zapata County, we see the same thing. And people are like, well, Rich, they'll vote in the general. They'll come out. And it's like, guys, actually, or they'll vote on election day. That's not true. It's been very clear to us. Republicans, everywhere there was a change in behavior in 24 from what we normally see, which is Republicans vote a lot heavily on election day. In a state like North Carolina, in a state like Texas, when they didn't turn out early, New Jersey's another one, Pennsylvania's another one. If they didn't turn out early the way that they did in 2024, they didn't turn out at all. Or at least it forecasted that the election day vote was not a big game day vote at all. So if you can't get them out in the early, especially in-person early vote, guess what, guys? They're not coming out. So this is what's going on. Now, of course, there's going to be a bigger vote on election day for Republicans than there are for Democrats. But this is absolutely forecasting that Democrats have their best chance in decades to win a statewide race in Texas. Like this, they have a better chance than Beto had against Ted Cruz. This is it's really bad, honestly, guys. It's which the National Republican Senatorial Committee effectively had this race tied. They had one here against this one here against that one. I think they lose it at this point. It really does depend who wins the primary. And there's two things I'm going to be watching. Obviously, who wins, but also where does the Hispanic vote break in counties like Hidalgo, Star, Zapata. Even though they're small, it doesn't matter. They will tell us about working class Mexicans particularly. I hope they split for Republican's sake, for Paxton's sake, because some of the Crockett voters and one of my locals community members, Paul, if he's listening, he's absolutely, Paul, you're absolutely right. I did go back and look at your post. He's absolutely correct. Some of these Crockett voters, we may not I don't think Democrats can count on them to come out and vote for Tallarico in a general. I think they're like kind of Crockett and Crockett only. They hate both parties and, they kind of, so if she breaks with Tallarico in the Hispanic vote, I think it's good for Paxton. But if it goes one-sided and that brings that candidate over the finish line, we're fucked.
Yeah, now that's what I was going to ask. So I think it's clear Paxton will be in a runoff with Cornyn.
Yeah.
I think I think despite all the baggage that Paxton has, I think Cornyn is worse off as a Bushite in a general election, especially in a war context.
Republicans won't vote. They won't come out for them.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, mark my words, you nominate Cornyn, you're done. At least with Paxton, who has some issues, he still will generate excitement and enthusiasm, and MAGA, at least a portion of MAGA, will still come out for him. You elect Cornyn, you nominate Cornyn, you're cooked.
Completely. And then on the Democratic side, what do you think? Because I've seen these wide-ranging polls. Some have, how do you say Tallarico? How do you say his name?
Tallarico is how.
Tallarico. All right. Tallarico is probably going to pretend to be Mexican by the campaign time. Tallarico against Crockett. I've seen polls with Crockett with a lead. I've seen polls with Tallarico. And the poll, everything I've seen shows the black vote's usually about a quarter of the Democratic primary vote, and she's winning it by like 80 to 90 points.
Yes.
That means he's got to win blowout, and then the Hispanic vote is close. That means he's got to win like by 50 points amongst white voters. Is he really going to win? But I still think it's a 50-50 race, but what do you think?
If you look at the early voting and where to believe the black margins, I actually couldn't, if he does not win huge margins with the Anglo, which is what the white vote's called in Texas, guys. If he doesn't win by huge margins and she even has a modest lead, modest by 5 to 10 points with Hispanics, he's done. If I'm looking at the early vote data, doesn't look like the polling. There's a lot of inconsistencies. They're coming out and they don't have vote history and shit, Robert. They're real voters, but they have very little or no vote history. There's a lot of them. And I mean them, I'm not trying to sound, because some pro-war Mossad agent's going to clip me and say, he said them, yes, I'm talking about black urban voters, particularly in Harris and in outside the Dallas-Fort Worth, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area even. They're huge, man. These turnout rates are huge, and she's going to win that by a lot. It doesn't look like the polling where, if white voters are saying they're, voting early, they are. It's just there's no consensus in the polling that he's winning by this huge white margin, some as low as 10 points. That's not enough. And I put the polling up as you were talking to show you, I think in RCP, Tallarico's ahead. What I do like about what they did here for Decision Desk for us, is that we can separate the registered and the likely voter samples, which is awesome. But also it shows you the 1 week change and the 1 month change. So we can get some idea of where the trend is going. The reason why Tallarico has a 76% chance in the model is because of the vote well, first of all, there's a couple of county data points that are missing, which are white. You know what I'm saying? So like, which are non-white. So it makes it look like Tallarico is getting a better turnout. So I'm telling you guys to be very cautious of that 76%. I don't think it's 76%. It's a close race. But again, there's like what the polls do show, bro, like 30% of Hispanic voters are undecided. If they break one way, if they break for her, they won't be close. It will be like, holy shit, she smoked him. And what's going to happen is the black vote in the urban areas will get counted early. She'll get a huge lead. And like the white vote in the central part of the state especially will come in, we'll close it back a little bit. But as soon as we get like, the Rio Grande and the rest of southern Texas, if she wins the Hispanic vote, her legs will stretch and he'll never catch her. So like that's what I actually do think is one of the more likely scenarios. I mean, this is what Hispanic Democrats do in Texas too, especially. The reason why I can't make such a sound like prediction on this one, guys, is because a lot of these people are angry Trump voters. They're angry Hispanic Trump voters. And like, I'm tempted to say they'll pick Tallarico because he's less nuts. But that's not, if you haven't been paying attention, if you think that's it, it's like that simple. These people are really mad. 9% of Mamdani's coalition in New York City was made up of pissed off Trump voters. Like, people don't realize this. Like, MAGA pissed off Trump voters who expected Trump not to bomb Iran and be a cuck for, Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, they expected him to be a wrecking ball for the American working class. These voters are no different. And I don't know what that means. Do they go with the one who's just off a rocker and wants to break shit? Probably. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I mean,
that'd be, and I think this war break is probably going to help her more than him.
Yes, that's going to help her.
Because she's the screw you, protest, angry candidate.
Yes.
So I'll give out a free pick. One of the, right now in the markets, they're pricing at 25% the chance that it's a Paxton Crockett race. No. I think that should be closer to 50%. Yes, all the way down. There's in the prediction markets, they're all over Tallarico. And even though Paxton has surged, there's still residual investing in Corbyn. And by the way, can the Israelis quit making money on Polymarket when they get advanced tip-offs that the war's coming? I mean, come on. How greedy do you got to be? But just a little side point there. I mean, people can't wait to profit off.
How greedy do you have to be? I mean, you're talking about a group of people who made money off of killing Palestinians in Gaza. How many Palestinians will be killed today? Like this is, and they're like, well, we're not quite there yet. Can we murder a few more? Like, this is how greedy can we be? Come on. Maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic, but
But yeah, my free pick will be take Paxton Crockett as the Senate election in Texas. The results of the primaries. I think it's sitting around 25%. I don't know where it's at currently, but I think it should be close. I would take it all the way up to 40% because I think it should be about 50%. Is the way I see that. Does that make sense to you? Where would you place those odds of a Paxton Crockett?
It's 50-50, bro. Because we don't know. We don't know where those Hispanic voters are going to go. And I actually think, I don't remember, there's some new people at DDHQ, but they said they were going to do like a video about it. And I didn't watch it, but that was the consensus, which was like, if we had some good polling, like consistent, good polling, and more than that, I mean, guys, the top lines, we know where Hispanic voters are. So like, if you can look regionally in the state and it makes sense with the margin you're seeing among the subgroups, then we can all basically, all of this makes sense across the board, which is why I was so confident that Trump was going to do better with non-whites. Trump was going to do better with younger. It wasn't just the top line margin in those like demographics I was looking at. I'm like, no, you know what? when we're polling Michigan, his strength in the southeastern part of Michigan is too strong to be done on the backs of whites. Like, you just can't do it. There was like multiple data points. Rui Teixeira, by the way, also noted this. Like, the polling is not wrong. When they were calling my polling a mirage, remember? All those new MAGA people who were in favor of Ron DeSantis, right? Fucking frauds. I really do feel like badly for many of you guys who got conned by these people. They conned you big. Like, that's why we call them. That's why real MAGA calls them big con. It's the whole thing is a grift, and you got played this time. I'm sorry. It's just true. If you were honest with yourself, you would let yourself realize that they were smarter this time, Robert. In 2016, they never came around. Mark Levin was named the biggest loser because he was like vehemently anti-Trump and he supported everyone other than Trump. And yeah, he pretended to like him when he needed to, but these guys never took their masks off. They always tell you they always had their masks off. They never put them on. This time they co-opted him. They co-opted him and they co-opted part of MAGA, and it was a smarter move. You know what I mean? It was a smarter move than how they played it the first administration. And now that guys, I tried to warn you all, like, this is what neocons do. Robert went over some of it when he got to especially the Reagan and Bush era. They were thrown out of the Democratic movement. They have always been, by the way, domestic liberals. They are not really conservatives. Like, if you're a conservative, you cannot support a mass surveillance state. Mark Levin and others like him are longtime proponents of mass surveillance states. That's not liberty, folks. Don't tell me you're in line with the founders. Mark Levin would terrify John Adams. Mark Levin would terrify Thomas Jefferson. He would scare the shit out of them. Are you kidding? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, Sparns.
They deport his lord ass.
They would remove him from the country, bro.
Yeah, exactly. As the kind of problem.
Bye.
And now, speaking of to give some white pills amidst some of the other unfortunate information that's where things are trending and where things are progressing. And these are predictions, not what I want to have happen, despite what I get, on X and other places. It's what I just think will happen. That's the point of the prediction markets. And the reason why I do it is it disciplines my mind. If you want to, motivation is the master of reason. Reason is not the master of motivation.
That's right.
So if you want to improve your reasoning, shift your motivation. So my motivation is to be accurate.
Nice.
The same motivation that Richard has. And so when that's the motivation, not what we want to have happen, but what we think actually will happen within range of probabilities, that's what we're trying to do. And that's where I see things standing. A 20-plus edge for the Democrats in the House, a 5 or 6 seat edge for Democrats in the Senate. And I think at this point, a 75% chance that a Democrat wins the White House. Now, I think that may still be an unknown candidate, somebody that might come out of a governorship, or maybe even somebody who wins a governorship this cycle.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's going to be Gavin Newsom. But as Richard's the 1776 Law Center survey polled, for the first time, Vance is not only behind, but he's way behind. He's 5-6 points behind.
Yep.
And that was before we launched the Iran war. I feel bad for Vance at the position he's in.
Me too.
If anybody had any doubts where Vance stood on the war or where Tulsi Gabbard stood on the war, just look at who was in Mar-a-Lago this weekend and who was not.
Yep.
Vance was not there. Tulsi Gabbard was not there. Now, what I didn't know was the energy secretary was also apparently opposed to the war, because he was meeting with Tulsi and JD in a situation room in the White House, and also wasn't down where Swampy Susie Wiles and John Ratcliffe were there with the president down there in Mar-a-Lago. So the
Saudis and the Israelis then pushed them over at the last minute, and it didn't matter what the data said. It went from one day to, thank you for doing the work you do. You are literally doing the Lord's work. I think we swayed him to fuck. It was so sad. MEB rolls in, the Israelis roll in, and money talks, man. I don't know what to say. Money talks. It's sad because Donald Trump was the one person who was supposed to have it, and it shouldn't talk for him. But he's concerned about what's going to, and I'm not saying I blame him for being human, but I think everyone's got to start coming to the grip that Donald Trump isn't just thinking about the here and now for like what's going on with America right now. And he's not. that what they did to him, which was egregious and is outrageous, and more indictments than the Black-Handed Death, who was a serial killer drug dealer in New York, more indictments than John Gotti, who was like, at that time, the strongest, not only the strongest head of any mob family, but one that like rubbed in like acquittals in their faces, indicting him more than people like that. It's horrible. But it did something to the guy. It did. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what to tell you. Like, Reagan's assassination attempt altered him. Like, he is a human being. If you deify a politician, you need to rethink your belief system. Like, if you think like he's playing 4D chess for you and this and that, and he's like, working through God and this and that, you don't know. And it's sad, because I like literally feel sad for you, because it's eventually the reality is going to hit you, because I know what he intends, and I'm not, I'm just not there yet. Locals and I had a conversation about it yesterday, but I'm just not there yet to like publicly talk about it this much. But if you think this is bad now, all right, and you're like finding yourself making excuses, you'll eventually get to a point where you can't anymore, and you're going to have a conversation internally with yourself about, like we all did with Bush. Like, should I have said things like, I trust Bush, he has more information than me, he'll never use those mass surveillance powers against me, right? Like, and then you looked stupid and you felt stupid. And that's why the country went to Obama. And then after Obama betrayed them, they went to Trump. Like, I'm telling you, we're going to be in a very, very, very ugly place, and you're going to be looking for people to help you, and they're not going to be there. And what I'm very concerned about is that good people who will want to are going to have their own problems. And it's like, I don't know. And this is a question I want to ask you. Like, obviously, you have JD and Gabbard staying behind, tells you something. All right. Do you see any way, Robert, for JD to finagle his way out of this being part of his legacy? Like, do you see any way for him to do that at this point? Because I think right that's now, really the only question left,
Yeah, he's got, I estimate a 25% chance of winning in 2028. There's a chance that if he stepped back and sort of remade himself the way Nixon did between 60 and 68, that he could come. He's a very young man, so he's got plenty of time to make a comeback in a whole new image. There's always the chance the Democrats blow the same opportunity because it's all they've done when they've had power. So the Democrats can easily be the gift that keeps on giving, as Joe Biden proved in abundance. So because of all that, that's why I assigned a 1 in 4 chance of winning in 2028. I would say about a 50-50 chance he could come back later if he did it right. Before we bridge into what are the policies people like JD can run on to build a lasting platform that can bring a true populist coalition together in ways that Trump has blown up, but is still there in terms of coalition formation capability. Before we get to that, we'll get to the 1776 Law Center popular issues that people should be running on all over the country.
Oh my God.
But right before we get there, I increasingly think, when we were up in DC, we heard from a lot of people who are in the administration and people that basically were describing Trump as almost King Learish, that he was really starting to lose it in a range of ways. And we're seeing comments that are almost insane right now to the press. Oh, well, the IRG, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that we just accused of murdering 30,000 protesters, they'll just lay down their guns and give it over to the people. Trump actually said this in the New York Times.
Or I had somebody picked out, but I killed them.
What world are you living in, Trump?
Robert,
should we have an age, required retirement age? Look at Mitch McConnell in the Senate. Look at Feinstein in the Senate. Look at Pelosi in the House. Is it time for us to impose? We have a minimum age to access the House, minimum age to access the Senate, minimum age to access the White House. Isn't it time we have a mandatory retirement age for the White House, for the House and the Senate?
Robert, I had somebody picked out, but I killed them. That was fucking insane. I couldn't, for people who don't know what I'm saying, I think it was Jonathan Karl. He was like, I think it was Jonathan Karl. It was like, Mr. President, all right, the Ayatollah is dead. And you're saying like at least 40 of their leadership is dead. But they're still fighting. Let's say they lay down their arms. Like, have you guys like, what's plan B, you know, or not what's plan B, what's the next part of the plan? Like, what's going to happen? Who's going to take over? Do you have somebody? Have you guys like been putting any thought to this? And he was like, I did. I had a few people. I had somebody, but I killed them. They were unfortunately killed in the airstrikes. And I was just, I just, that's when like everything just dawned on me that things other people told me absolutely are true. Like they really didn't, you know, the general himself at the very end of this was like, you know, because the president was like pressing for, I think a lot of his strategy was a gamble on that this would be very quick and that we would be able to do this lightning fast and that's it. And it'll be like Maduro and we'll move on. Like he really did think this, guys. I'm not kidding. And then like the general, when he was like, yo, you know, give me your odds. Like, give me what you're taking. You know what his answer was? I don't know. Can we do this? His final answer was, I don't know, Mr. President. And he did it. And he pulled the trigger. So like, don't delude yourself with 4D chess. Fucking, it's like, I love the guy. Personally, I love him. You know, I'm like fighting with Mark Thiessen on X the other day, and I just wanted to put it up so bad. But I've gotten like personal notes about this schmuck from the president, you know, like explaining that. And what's ironic is that the fight, Robert, was about, you remember the Trump or bust, the debate over all the polling we did about Trump or bust voters and how they make up the core part of the coalition. That is the winning part of the coalition. So, you know, Thiessen was always like citing, well, you know, 58% say they want someone other than Trump. And it's like, well, douchebag, what about the other 42? You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the people that will not come out if Nikki Haley is the nominee, who he at that time supported. He was still a Trump hater who wanted Nikki Haley. And Trump sent me the funniest message. He was like, he's like, is he like retarded, Rich? Does he not know how to count to 10? You know, like it was hilarious. And he was like, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. You know, Donald Trump, you know, and I'm like fighting with Mark over the weekend. I just so badly wanted to throw it up into his face, just publicly in front of everyone. Like, this is where we've come, you know, where Mark Thiessen is defending a very, an unwise decision by the president, not defending it, cheerleading for it. And then citing a poll that shows that, first of all, the vast majority of the country opposes this because he's like, not true to the political article. And he cites that poll. That poll showed 70% of the country did not support the war. And even in fact, if you took some of the, like that poll is, I think it is the one I referenced before, the one where it's like the highest level of support among Republicans for the conflict out of any other poll, except for the unicorn poll. All right. So don't put that in our chats. All right. Unless you believe in unicorns. All right. It still meant that the Trump MAGA does not. And it's like, I think they're getting all twisted because they don't understand the demographics of MAGA enough to know that simply asking whether you identify as MAGA or Republic, like regular Republican, does not identify MAGA. It's like a good start. It's a good question, but it takes years of tracking over time the Republican coalition and understanding what coalitions come in, what parts of the coalition come in with Trump and Trumpism, what ones phase out when Trump's not on the ballot and his ideas aren't on the ballot and his promises aren't on the ballot. The anti-war populism isn't on the ballot. It takes that before you really understand the full picture. And like, guys, if it was a Venn diagram, it wouldn't even be 3 circles. It would be 5 because you'd have to throw in like orphan Democrats, like the 14% of Democratic men in Pennsylvania who will vote for Donald Trump but not vote for anybody else. They might not vote at all if like Trump's not. So like I'm laughing at it because like, does anybody else want to tell this idiot about the other 40%? Like you can't just laugh it off and like, 40%. That's what he did with Nikki Haley. If Nikki Haley was nominated, Kamala Harris would have won the election. I mean, there's just no doubt. There's not enough Republicans in the mold of stupid Mark Thiessen to win a national election. And I'm like finding myself, I guess the point I'm telling the story is, guys, Donald Trump at one time He knew it so well that he sent me a note about it. You know what I'm saying? So like he knew exactly what I was saying at the time, and we're here. It's just, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. It's been a remarkable rise and fall to watch. And I hate to say it, but I will say this. I've been telling people and warning people, the day Donald Trump won the election, what did I say? All over every program, my own, War Room, Solomon, whatever, Newsmax, whatever, wherever else I was. The number one job of the Republican Party right now, starting right now, is to make sure that they rebrand in Donald Trump's image, because they underperformed him because of those voters. That's why Mike Rogers isn't a senator right now. David McCormick got lucky. That's why Eric Hovda isn't a senator right now. That's why John Duarte is no longer a representative. That's why Mike Garcia is no longer a representative, right? They lost everywhere where they underperformed Trump because of these. And their number one job was to complete the realignment. And in order to do that, I'm not going to go into, I've ad nauseum spent hours on video, guys, explaining how to do it. Not just that they had to, explaining how to do it. Just like Robert and I don't just bitch. We literally put our money where our mouth is and we offer real solutions. We spend an enormous amount of our own money to offer them solutions, not just bitch about it. And they didn't do it. And at some point, the window started to close. The Epstein stuff started to close it. Young voters, especially young women, turned off greatly by how he mishandled Epstein. Then with the 1-2 punch to the chin of MAGA, he fucking bombed Iran. And that was when, last year to start, and that was when it really started to come apart. And now we're at the point where the window's closed. The realignment, I think, honestly, and I wanted to play this clip, Robert, just to, if that's cool. The Megyn Kelly clip I wanted to play too, but there's another one. Here it is, actually, which I really did want to show, which should tell people that I think we're already in I think the Iran war is the start of a new realignment. And I think that, unfortunately, I don't want it to be, again, just so everybody understands, I think and let me get it and put it up here, and then I'll shut up and I'll run the clip, because I think when Ro Khanna understands why the Republican Party nominated Donald Trump twice over other viable candidates that the party wanted more than him, when he understands that, better than Mark Levin, better than Ben Shapiro, better than Lindsey Graham, better than all the fake MAGAs like Will Chamberlain and Mike Davis, when he understands that better, it's probably a very good sign that we're off to another realignment. So let me play this clip really quick, because I think it's important.
Are co-sponsoring a bill with Congressman Massey to force a vote on the War Powers Resolution. Congressman, do you think you have enough votes for this to pass?
Is going to be very close, but I believe we will have every Democrat. I can't believe it. There's going to be a Democrat who wants to vote for another war in the Middle East. And then you have not just Congressman Massey, you have Congressman Davidson, Congressman Biggs. There are a number of people on the Republican side who agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yep.
You know, Donald Trump said that the Iraq war was a disaster. He said Libya was a disaster. He ran because a big part of the MAGA base did not want another war in the Middle East. They rejected Lindsey Graham. And yet here we have Lindsey Graham being the face of Republican foreign policy, as is evidenced by the fact that he was your lead guest. I mean, I believe this is a betrayal of a decent chunk of the MAGA base.
Boom.
Yeah. Oh, he's absolutely right. I mean, he nailed it. And it will be up to the now, what are some of those future populist platform issues that, if a smart Democrat can also run on, there's nothing prohibit Democrats. You don't have to stay pro-war. You don't have to stay pro-big pharma. You don't have to stay pro-big ag. You don't have to, you don't have to do those things. Let's go to some of the highlighted items.
They're using Epstein to try not to be. This is the thing, guys, what you've not seen, what so many people are missing. Ro Khanna, he's a nice guy, by the way.
Oh, yeah, very nice guy, very smart guy, and at least is trying to build bridges to the populist base on the other side. He gets it in ways that
he's a
too
bridge
few
builder.
other Democrats get.
That's his danger. That's his danger to the Republican Party, because I actually had somebody, and I love you, bro. You know I'm about to blow you up. But he wrote me back, and he was like, am I to think that like Ro Khanna is going to be this like leader of the new anti-war left? And I said, no, he's the bridge builder to it. He's the one who's going, and then a standard bearer will rise and fuck you up. Pardon my French. Like, he's gonna steamroll you. You understand? Or she. They will steamroll you. And by the way, you know what they're gonna do after they do that? Make sure that you actually don't get the electoral college advantage that you think you're going to get in 2032. That will be gone. They will erase that, and it will be very hard for a Republican to win, when it should be almost impossible in 2032 because of the census. It should be not impossible, very hard for a Democrat to win the electoral college ever again. Republicans can actually win it without even winning one of the Rust Belt states. They will make sure that that never happens once they win, and they will at this point. Here's the policies that Robert's talking about. Again, I mean, we polled a lot here, Robert. This isn't even everything on the poll here, but huge food freedoms. Again, it always stuns me how popular these things are. You want to roll through some of this?
Absolutely. So one is your right to control your life and not have the government control it. Is one category of issues. And your right to get legal relief and remedy from the courts where immunity has otherwise been granted is a very common theme. Mm-hmm. So what we tested on is, for example, the right to buy food. And we even framed the question in a more skeptical way. We said, are you for the right to buy food directly from the farmer without any government inspection, without any government regulation, without any government permission, without any government license? And overwhelmingly, by 2-to-1 margins, the answer is absolutely. Give me the right to buy food directly from the farmer. That should not be in the government's control, period. Then we asked you, what are you about in terms of no immunity? And we tested that at multiple levels.
Huge.
So that doesn't matter whether it's a big chemical company that wants to contaminate us, like glyphosate and their producers and that crowd with Bayer and Monsanto. Or we're talking about the vaccines. I mean, Senator Rand Paul retweeted the poll that said, that do you support Rand Paul's, and we didn't even put Rand Paul's name in it. We said, do you support a law ending all immunity for big drug companies when their vaccines cause injury? Overwhelming support. Overwhelming. Huge. Even more intense amongst younger voters and the future of the electorate. Strongly favor this. Then we asked, that Senator Rand Paul's got a legislative proposal to do precisely that. Then we asked on another immunity question. Do you support removing immunity for all government agents and officials if they violate civil rights or civil liberties? Yeah. Right now, law enforcement on the federal side has a complete immunity for the most part. And even at the state level, they have qualified immunity.
Look at that strongly in favor. Wow, bro.
All of these issues are issues with breadth. In other words, they have broad-based support across the country in a wide range of demographics, and depth. They have intense, strongly support, strongly approve, very favorable numbers. And they are particularly popular with independent voters, with swing voters, and younger voters, and the future generations that are going to determine American politics. So we also asked questions about keeping us out of war. That's still very popular, very significant with a large number of voters.
Almost identical to oppose the war. So it was 70% oppose, 72% who say it's important to stay out of war. So a few more percentage points said it's very important, or somewhat important, at least somewhat important, to stay out of wars. But the combination of oppose for the strikes in Iran was only 2 points lower at 70%, which, by the way, I went and looked. It grew with Republicans. It started at around 52% oppose, went all the way in the 60s. And now it's coming back down again because of the rally effect, but not anywhere near, guys, nowhere near what you're seeing with some of these other unicorn polls. Okay, that's just not the case. All right.
Another deeply popular new policy that we tested was, should you have the right to sue banks when banks discriminate against you politically?
There it is.
And this is another issue. Off the chart support, broad support, deep support, intense support, impassioned support. Americans don't think big ag should be immune. They don't think big tech should be immune. They don't think big pharma should be immune. They don't think big banks should be immune. They don't think big government should be immune. They want a equal legal system that gives them the right. We also asked, should you have the right to sue if you believe your election for office in your community at any level, president down to local city council,
here.
that should you have the right to sue if you have evidence that the election was not done in an honest manner? Again, overwhelming support, broad support, deep support, wide support across this. I mean, you want real election reform? Put it in the hands of ordinary people and the right to seek legal relief and remedy to bring their own election contest. No more immunity for big government, no more immunity for big business, no more immunity for big ag, no more immunity for big tech, no more immunity for big pharma. We tested. If you unleash the antitrust division, and remember, we have antitrust laws at every state level. So the state attorney generals can seek this. People running for office in those states can see. People running for DA can look at this. Massively popular. Do you want to break up the big monopolies to lower prices? Again, very broad support, very deep support. Right now, that's being completely sabotaged and betrayed in the Trump administration by corrupt corporate felony criminal lobbyist, unregistered lobbyist, Mike Davis. If they would unleash this, it would be a huge winner. But for those, whatever happens in the Trump administration, in the future, if JD built a platform on these true freedom policies, medical freedom, political freedom, financial freedom, food freedom, and embraced it with radical institutional reform, revolutionary institutional reform that put power back in the hands of the people, then he could build a platform that can get him elected to the presidency, even if that might be 2032 or 2036 rather than 2028.
Yeah, look at some of these numbers, guys. The antitrust division is agree plus 50. That question Robert was talking about, the proposal, really, they were proposals. The right to sue, you want to talk about election integrity, that's a huge issue with the base. Agree plus 64. The prosecution of those, we can't ignore this, which is why
are you sure? Richard, nobody cares about Epstein. Nobody cares about the Epstein file. They're irrelevant. Nobody's even talking about those.
The highest tested at agree plus 70. I mean, guys, you don't see agreement in American politics like this. Epstein literally has the most broad-based bipartisan consensus in the country. We have polled all of the proposals that have actually become law. Doge was really popular with young people especially, but with the BBB, we actually did get majority popular. It was like 52, 54. It depends at what point we polled it. The Epstein Transparency Act has the highest level of favorability out of any legislation passed in the Trump administration. So here's a couple of things that I put together. If somebody on social media that you follow said any of the following, okay, that the COVID lockdown thing was no big deal. Well, it doesn't matter if it was, 2 weeks to a month to slow the spread. You should unfollow them. Okay. If they told you that the mishandling, how Trump mishandled the Epstein situation was no big a deal, and nobody cares, you should unfollow them. If they told you that the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities last year would blow over and it wasn't a big deal, you should unfollow them. If they're cheerleading right now for this war, you should unfollow them. If you really, like Robert said before, what is your motivation? If your principles motivate you, okay, and you're not a fraud, and you do think that Democrats and what is happening at home, you know who said it really well? Matt over at, what's his name? Matt Walsh. He said, look, that's great. For even if everything turns out lovely, it will cost us. And freedom for the Iranian people is not worth no freedom at home. And that is the choice, which is why I made the video I did the night I knew this was coming. I made that choice. I mean, I made that video because I wanted to say flatly, where do your loyalties lay? You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You cannot start a war when Americans have overwhelmingly, for months, Robert, said that they do not want this bullshit with the pivot to the foreign policy. They want to go back to the Trump of the first 3 to 5 months of his administration. And listen, they were very clear. It's like unequivocal. And Republicans didn't listen. Trump didn't listen. It doesn't matter if he can't get everything through the Congress. It's the perception that he's fighting for them that matters. This is what people have been saying for 6 months. 6 months, and they chose not to listen. So again, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Your choice was, do you support this war? Do you support giving up the coalition? Do you support jeopardizing the integrity of the Trump coalition as a viable winning coalition? Or do you not? I mean, or do you support sacrificing it for the war? Because that really is the only decision you had to make, was like this stupid venture. And it is a stupid venture. All right. Let me let you all in on a little secret. The Iranians hate our fucking guts. Even the ones who don't like the Ayatollah aren't going to sit there and welcome us. All right. It's ridiculous. These are the lies they tell you over and over and over again. Even if they did, is their freedom worth yours? That's what this comes down to. You have to fight the real threat at home. Democrats, if you think Obama was a hard left turn for the country after Bush did what he did, this is going to be dark ages compared to that. We're going to be in the fucking dark. All right. I don't know. Look, everything all of those other idiots told you was 100% wrong. And we are here today because they didn't listen. They did listen to them. And they didn't listen to our warnings. And now here we are. I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm always an optimist, and I'm always going to say course correct, course correct, course correct. And maybe we can mitigate the damage. There's like a show on, my wife told me, she was like, this is you. This is like you. And it was this guy is a mathematician. It's some science sci-fi show. He's a mathematician. And he's like it's in the future. And there's like a cosmic empire. And he's trying to explain to them that he can use patterns in history and math and science and data to forecast that the empire is going to fall. And you have to change certain things. Otherwise, it's going to happen. It's inevitable regardless, but you can limit the time that you're in the dark if you do X, Y, and Z. And that's like really where we're at, I think now. Like, I don't know, 9 months is a long time. So that's what baffles me, brother, about these idiots, like the red state idiots who attacked me over the weekend. Like, oh, it's ridiculous. We were underdogs anyway. So fuck it, whatever. Okay, dummy. Do you want to lose 5 seats? Are you a small majority, or do you want to lose 25, 35? Do you want to lose, do you want to have an even Senate or a balance, like maybe a 1 vote edge? Or do you want to have a 5-6 vote deficit? Like, what is the dumbest comments I've heard over the last 72 hours, Robert? The dumbest comments. At this point, we should accept that what has been the actions that have been taken have screwed us. And we need to make sure that we mitigate the damage going forward. You have not, those are defeatists. That's what I think bothers me so much about what they say. You'll never get that from the left. That's why the left is winning. Number one, the left, their cause always comes first. Always. They never get goaded into dumb wars the way Republicans do. We do. Now, they may even support those wars privately. Like, there's a reason why Barry Weiss, the New York Times, Fox News, they all agree. They wanted this war. But they weren't going to get Barack Obama to do it. They weren't going to get a President Bernie Sanders to do it. They weren't going to get a President Gavin Newsom to do it. No, they'll dupe the stupid Republican president into doing it and ruining his fucking coalition for 20 years. They don't do that to the Democrats. The Democrats never take their eye off the prize. Their goal is their goal. They are true believers. They're not divided by posers and grifters like Big Con. They are unified and resolute in their cause, and nothing distracts them, and you will never hear defeatism from them. They were facing annihilation in 22, and instead of doing dumb shit to make it worse, they put out a ton of money. They scaled up, get out the vote. They tried to act moderate for 6 months, and they mitigated the damage while Republicans sabotage themselves everywhere. That is what Republicans should be doing. I just don't understand the defeatist attitude, bro. Like, we're going to lose, so whatever. That's retarded. It's also 9 months away. In politics, you quit 9 months before an election. I don't know if I want to be associated with weak-minded people like that, Robert. I'm serious. I don't think I belong with weak-minded simpletons who quit and roll over and give away America's future for a nation 3% their size. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't think I have very much in common with that level of stupidity. You fight and you fight and you fight and you fight, and it doesn't matter if the odds are against you. It doesn't matter if it's overwhelming. It doesn't matter if it's hopeless. You fight forever. You never give up until you take your last fucking breath. And I don't want to be associated with any pussy who doesn't do that, because that's all they are. Again, why did they hide in their ivory towers instead of join the military? You love death so much? Go do it, bro. Go do it.
Yeah, I thought that Pasha mentions that the show that's referenced is the Foundation, but I assumed it was a show
the Foundation, that's it. Yes, thank you.
I assumed it was some show
I feel like that dude, bro.
Yeah, well, I assumed that the description from Laura would be it's a show where this nerd can kill people twice his size with his bare hands. The reminds me of Richard. What can completely reverse course? Get out of Iran. You've got a better deal already on the table than the JCPOA ever was. They already put that on the table in Geneva. Take the deal, get it done, declare victory, go home, finish it. Tell Bibi to shut his mouth, stay low, and no more, no mas for Israel. Number two,
JD,
unleash fire all the corrupt actors at the Justice Department. Put Ed Martin in as a temporary head of the Justice Department, and unleash on the Epstein class. Start indicting Les Wexner. Start indicting Bill Clinton. I mean, people who have probably just committed perjury before Congress. So they extended the statute of limitations. Les Wexner just did that. Bill Clinton just did that. Hillary Clinton just did that. Unleash on the Epstein class. Yeah. Don't be the representation of the Epstein class, the protector and the defender of the Epstein class. Be the prosecutor of the Epstein class. Run the policies opposite what the Epstein class wants. To give an example, Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon, one of the survey questions we polled was, do Americans want the government to use its power to go after companies that imposed vaccine mandates and ignored religious objections? Yes. And overwhelming answer was yes, absolutely. Do it.
Right there.
The EOC is not even under the government's not even under the statute of limitations. They can bring claims going all the way back to 2021 and 2020. Harmeet Dillon instead. Harmeet Dillon's running around doing BB's and the donor Israel First donor class business, making sure there's no anti-Semitic graffiti in local towns. Yeah, sorry, Harmeet, that isn't what you were elected to do.
You're killing us, Harmeet.
Unleash civil rights to go after all the lawfare. People want, including those government officials, they don't want to have immunity. They don't want judges to have immunity anymore. Go after these rogue state judges and other judges that violated Trump's civil rights, that violated January 6th defendants' civil rights. Dump that ridiculous case that you're trying to put on a patsy on January 6th, and instead prosecute the CIA officer who is the most likely culprit for the pipe bombs that were placed as a plant on January 6th. Unleash the Justice Department Antitrust Division to actually break up big corporations, not do sweetheart deals for corrupt criminal lobbyist Mike Davis. You can do all, and then go to Congress and propose that to you a 20 to 25% tariff on all foreign goods, and that eliminates the individual income tax on 95% of American households. That is also 2-to-1 popular and supported in the polls. So even though tariffs are generally have a mixed opinion, when they hear it means no more individual income tax, and instead the tariff is a tax I can avoid by buying American, it's a win-win. But you've got to push it on Congress. You've got to force them to say no to it. Make Democrats go on the record saying they would prefer Chinese foreign goods to be cheap than they would American workers to pay no individual income tax. We've put together the platform of ideas that they could run on. Now, if they don't, a message to every other candidate out there. These are incredibly popular issues, and almost nobody's running on it. No more immunity for Big Pharma on its vaccines injuries. No more immunity for big chemical companies when they're causing cancer. No more immunity for rogue government officers and agents when they're violating our civil rights and civil liberties. No more stupid foreign wars everywhere, every place, all the time. Yeah. Change our tax structure to tax foreign goods instead of working Americans. These are huge winning issues. Now, if the Trump administration doesn't pick it up, there's not much we can do about it. We've given it to them on a silver platter. But all you other folks out there, it doesn't matter what office you're looking for, look for the local issue that aligns with ish. The right to buy food directly from the farmer, the right to sue. You can bring election contest laws at the city level. You can have the city level, the county level, the state level, and the federal level, so that people can bring a challenge to an election if they think it was fraudulently conducted. That should have been a right. The words right to vote are said about 6 times in our Constitution. That right to vote means nothing if it can be watered down or diminished by elections being stolen.
Yep.
And so all of these are ways to give real remedies, real power to the people to restore the constitutional republic away from this decaying, dying empire of death that the Israel lobby and the deep state want us to get involved.
Want us to be on. I mean, that's all they have to offer. I was trying to quickly make a crosstab to show people because I don't want to put it in that main crosstab with everything else. But I may have to just do it just to get this done and quick. Let me put it in this one, and then this one won't be public. But there are 3 questions that we did, Robert, that people have not seen. And that was statements made by Democrats running for office, statements made by Republicans running for office combined, how people reacted to them, whether they agreed with them or not. And then there was the last one, which was the Democratic attack on Donald Trump for hiding or not hiding. I'm saying their line of attack for how he mishandled Epstein. And I want to show people those results because we didn't put them publicly yet. I don't know why we didn't do that. I mean, I honestly wanted to kind of do a show with you about it first. That's probably why we didn't do it. But here's the Democratic message. All right. Here's how it tested. It's going to blow you away. It's enormously popular. All right. And that is basically, where is it? Ooh, here it is. Am I on the wrong one? No, I'm on the right one. All right. It's very long because, of course, this is John Ossoff. Okay. Just so everybody understands, this is who said this and basically goes on about we need to expose and hold accountable the Epstein class, increase access to healthcare, which, by the way, is the number 3 issue behind cost of living in the economy. But foreign policy, by the way, is nowhere near an important issue for voters right now. Foreign policy, national security, nobody gives a shit. Not tax cuts for billionaires, attacking that version of how Trump and Republicans talk about tax cuts, and etc. And this is what it came in at. 53% strongly agreed with what John Ossoff said. 27% somewhat agreed. And that goes, if we go by party, which is really interesting. All right. You can see that, I mean, of course, strongly 68% of Democrats, 42% strongly agreed among Republicans, and among independents, 45. So a little bit more than Republicans on strongly, but combined Republicans still about 3/4 of them agreed with it. Same thing, ditto, almost 3/4, about 70% with independents, and Democrats were like 88%. It's or 89. So 90% basically. And then we tested statements that Trump has made, okay, even the most populist of them. By the way, I think we were very generous to Donald Trump in this, okay? And I'm not saying we fudged it to make it better for Trump. I'm saying we were generous. We picked the most. Go ahead.
Yeah, what we were testing was a populist left campaign in 2028 message, borrowing heavily from what Senator Ossoff is now running on in Georgia, which is about the Epstein class versus the working class.
Yes.
And then we tested what would be a J.D. Vance version of that message in 2028 that could immigration and cultural issues where Democrats have a disadvantage on the populace. Would that be enough to counterbalance all of the issues with war and Epstein that have been created by the Trump administration?
The answer is people agree with it, but not enough. Right? It's a majority even. It's just that the Democrats have won the narrative. That's what this means. Only 32% strongly agree compared to over a majority with the Democratic message. 26% somewhat agree. So you're looking at almost 60% combined in agreement. But what you'll notice is super tepid, strong agreement among independents. Even Republicans are below a majority. They're just below it. And then Democrats only about 1 in 5. Whereas with the Democratic message, even Republicans were like, oh, yeah, rah, rah. I mean, this is a major, major disadvantage for it tells you they won the narrative. Now let's go to the one that Trump supporters are going to like the least. Okay. But this is the Democratic attack, the Epstein attack on Donald Trump. And we basically, I'll read some of it, but, Trump promised to expose the Epstein class. Instead, he covered up for them. Trump was supposed to fight for the working class. Instead, he's closing rural clinics and hospitals to cut taxes for George Soros and Elon Musk. Notice even in this thing, this is a Democratic attack on a Democratic donor. But they have been so successful that they have been able to tie Donald Trump to their own dirtbag donor. Okay? It's unbelievable.
This is almost verbatim Senator Ossoff's criticisms in a recent speech.
Yes. And it got 42% who strongly agreed with it. That includes 2/3 of Democrats, over a third, 37% of independents, and even 1 in 5 Republicans. And I think this is important for you guys to understand, because that is the number at the very bottom that has now, I would describe their reaction to Iran anywhere from disappointment to very effing angry. Okay. This is a problem because we calculated it. Donald Trump has already lost about 18% of his coalition from 2024. All right. That's about the MAGA is 18%, is minus 18% its top strength. All right. And the problem is many of them are Trump or bust voters, which is the key to his winning coalition. And then others are actually ones that Robert and I tried to warn you about. They don't think like you. They're not partisan. Like, how could you ever vote for a Democrat? And so, like, when you expect them to buy arguments like, well, and Mike Cernovich is doing it right now. I love you, Mike, but that shit ain't going to work. Like, as much as we're mad at Trump, the Democrats are worse. Not to these people. So they're like, like, that's just not going to work. It never does work, Mitt Romney. Jesus Christ. What are we doing? Lord, sorry, took your name in vain. But like, like, this is unbelievable that we're like repeating the same thing. It's again, it's amazing what human beings can try to convince themselves of. Anyway, strong agreement, another 19%. So you're looking at what, guys? I mean, this is really bad. You're looking at 60%, basically a little over, who agree with what is said here about Donald Trump covering up for the Epstein class and then screwing over his working class coalition. That includes 41.6% of Republicans who agree with that. I'm going to say that again. Combined 41.6% of Republicans agree with that statement, agree with this line of attack, agree with this entire argument. Only 31% of Republicans strongly disagreed with it. Some would disagree with 17, which is lower than the somewhat agree at 21. This is a nightmare. This is called base. Is it even fracture, Robert? It looks like obliteration.
The foundation is collapsed. This is what I meant when I said MAGA is dead.
Yeah.
It's not that there aren't going to be people that support Trump. There absolutely will be. There'll be about a third of the country that will likely stick with Trump no matter what, just like they stuck with George W. Bush no matter what, just like they stuck with Richard Nixon no matter what, just like they stuck with LBJ no matter what, and Harry Truman no matter what. So there's going to be a part of the base that's sufficiently partisan or sufficiently aligned with where Trump has gone. But the key is you needed to hold all of it together because it was such a narrow majority to begin with. And when I say MAGA is dead, I mean as a majority force for Trump, it is dead because Trump has suffocated it right at the time of its potential birth into the world politically with real potency and power. That does not mean the ideas and issues and populism that drove it is dead. Yeah. It means that Trump's version of it is dead because Trump has killed it.
Yes.
As Rush Limbaugh said long ago, as you pointed out many times, that the only person who could break his bond between Trump and his voters is Trump. Well, Trump has broken that bond. Yeah. Now, I know that there's 78% of his voters that are still with him. So I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying the portion that was needed and necessary to be a functioning political majority in the country under Trump's guidance and governance is dead. And since Trump has claims to own MAGA, okay, well, MAGA is dead now, Mr. President, thanks to you. Now, that doesn't mean populism is dead. Populism is still here, and it is growing. It is deepening. The belief in it is becoming more overwhelming, not less. So populism will still be the driving motif of American politics. The question is who now will take up the banner. There's still an opportunity for the Trump administration to reverse course correct, and take up that banner in a way that may salvage 2028, if not 2026. But it doesn't look like it's going that way for the last year. So it's more likely going to be somebody else. Maybe that's J.D. Vance in a future election. I would say right now, if things stay in the way they're going, J.D. Vance, I agree with you, is better off not running in 2028.
Yeah.
Let Marco Rubio run. Let him get utterly humiliated. Let the neocons suffer their third humiliating, crushing electoral defeat.
Let them lose.
And while you go and run for governor, where Vivek is likely going to lose this time around, so you can challenge the Democrat and win in 2030, and then run and incorporate all of these populist ideas into that platform. Start implementing it at a state level. Recast and rebrand as that person and as that figure, and Vance can come back. It would be one of the ultimate comebacks of all time, but he can with this agenda. That's why we laid it out. But we can turn to the. So anybody has a question, just put in a super chat. We'll get to it.
Yep, or tip on locals or something like that. I'm not very good at looking at Rumble rants, so if I miss a Rumble rant, brother, let me know. But yeah, I just echo what you just said. MAGA as Trump's MAGA, that's dead. That window is closed. I've been holding off on saying this for a while, even though Newsweek quoted me the moment he was about to drop bombs last year. It said MAGA pollster, MAGA's finished if Trump does this. The truth is I was right back then because I knew what was going to go on. I knew we would be here. I've watched presidency after presidency be completely dominated by foreign policy. The problem here for Trump is that this was a core thing about him, the Middle East specific. Like he could have started a fucking war with China and it would have been better than this. The core, no more wars in the Middle East. Guys, I think I sent you one, Robert. Polling over the weekend, we got memes of Benjamin Netanyahu bending Donald Trump over a podium, talking about like sexual graphic memes. Like that's how angry voters were. We'll have transcribed interviews. Some of it I have to block out because I tweeted about this. Like Americans are funny, man. They're really funny, but they can also be very mean. And I actually find sometimes when they're mean, it's funny. But this weekend. Like I had to like stop and hug my wife like 3 times from emotion, like for support. It was depressing. It was the saddest thing I've ever heard, and it was also really bad after they arrested Donald Trump. That was something. I remember that too. But this was a level of disappointment and emotion from voters like that I don't think I've ever experienced. No, I've never experienced this before. It was heartbreaking to listen to. And I also want to just point out before we get to the question that those numbers right there are like mirroring numbers from some of the other things that we have been testing over the last few months. Remember do you think Israel has too much influence over Donald Trump? It's almost identical. I mean, that actually was like 44%, I think, of Trump's own vote, his 2024 vote, not Republicans. 40+% of Trump's own 2024 coalition said that they thought Israel had too much influence over him. Guys.
And this was before. He just launched this.
Oh, it was like
That's going to be a majority going forward.
It was like a month ago. That was a month ago, Yeah, let's go to the super chat. Wow. Sheesh, there's a lot of comments today, Robert. I just want to, leave that up for people to digest. Some of these I can't put up. I mean, look at the first one, Jolly. While I personally think that is absolutely hilarious, I don't think I could put it up. What Jolly is basically saying is that Trump has been a slave to Israel basically his whole life, and cites being groomed by Roy Cohn in a very colorful way. Moving on. This one, have you seen this? I actually pulled this up yesterday and still haven't had a chance to look at what he's talking about. I have it. Tommy Robinson's message to America with Dave Rubin. I know he goes off on Tucker, like saying like, "Oh, up yours, Tucker. I'm watching my country." Well, right, because Tommy's dealing with like an influx of. This is what Tommy doesn't understand, though. Bro, the wars in the Middle East are why your country is flooded with Muslims.
That's exactly right. That's
right.
I mean, Tommy is on the pro.
That I got nothing else to really discuss with you.
Yeah,
you're not on the level, bro.
It became clear 3 months ago that the Israel lobby's new approach was going to be to convince Americans of the great Islamic threat to the U.S. And that's why I was skeptical of it. Does that mean there's no threat? Well, now that we just killed the leader of the Shia Muslims all around the world, that threat has gone all through the roof. So, yeah, that threat is there. But sorry, Tommy, some of us aren't going to take Israeli first cash, like Tommy has. Tommy has a history of sabotaging and betraying his own base, betraying anybody for money. Tommy's got a long legacy of this. I've run out of when he started doing the whole Israeli trip, and now Dave Rubin is out there. Dave Rubin loves this war. He's a huge war whore, Dave Rubin.
Well, because Dave Rubin's got a wine wall in his house.
Exactly.
Bro. He's
already got his bought and paid for kids. He's already got the kids that he's buying up, and for him and his husband. So sorry if I don't take the fact that he's on Dave Rubin made me go that's what this is about.
You mean Trump hater Dave Rubin, who was a Trump hater fucking 15 months ago, bro?
Voted against him in 2016, opposed him in 2024, throughout the whole primary stage. So look at with again, is there a risk of? There's not the same Islamic risk in America that there is in Europe because we have nowhere near the same population. People forget Muslim voters in Dearborn voted for Trump, for crying out loud.
I was just going to say that.
They completely blanked out on that. So that would suggest they're not the imminent risk that everybody's saying. Is there a greater risk now because we're back into a religious war, killing a religious leader? Yes, there is. Yes. But that's now. But did Tommy Robinson spend any of that interview with Dave Rubin criticizing Mideastern wars, or did he say nothing about it because he's a little Zio cuck?
Yeah, I got to tell you guys, in case you didn't notice, the last 6 months of influencers like that and others and, trying to convince you that, Laura Loomer yesterday posted that we need to basically round up, that was her words, round up Muslims. All right. So the Muslims who voted for Donald Trump in Dearborn, we got to round them up. In fact, the margin with Muslims in support of Donald Trump shifted dramatically more than Jewish Americans. So it's just a fact, bro. The fact is the Republican Party caters to a constituency that represents roughly 25% of 2.5% of this country. That because they got the money. And I'm not saying that to sound like a Nick Fuentes. This is just true. Everybody,
Trump has made Nick Fuentes look prescient. He's made Nick Fuentes look prescient.
And
he's made Candace Owens look sane.
That's always been my fear, though. That has always been my fear, Robert.
Anti-Semitism is going to rise. But let's be honest. Who is a greater threat to American peace, security, prosperity, popularity of populist positions? The Islamists in the United States or the Israel lobby in the United States?
Qatar or Israel? Which one? Like they were the lobby for Qatar or the lobby for Israel? I've never been to Qatar. I've never spoken to a Qatari, despite the fact that it's all over my Twitter feed. You're a Qatari. You're a Qatarlson. Bro, I've never even met someone from Qatar, bro. I don't think
the U.S. has a military defense agreement with Qatar. It's Donald Trump who cut that deal. So the degree of they're creating a phantom menace of the Muslims are coming. The Muslims are coming. So you better rally behind Israel because the Muslims are coming. And it's kind of obvious what it is. Does that mean there's no risk? I'm not saying there's not. That there indeed is a risk, but they're exaggerating that risk to distract you from the real risk, which is the Israel lobby hijacking American policy once again.
I am being asked, apparently I am getting permission to put up one of these little transcribed interviews here. Let me see if I can get it up real quick in between a question. All right, so I'll check that out, Rockerville, but I did see some of it. I just didn't see the part you're talking about. Even my Fox News mom says Trump has turned into Jeb Bush. So is my Fox News father. Such a bad sign. Pulling the rug underneath populists to get neocon votes makes zero sense. Yeah, I got to tell you, and in Florida, I know someone who just polled Florida who does a pretty good job polling Florida, which is where, I'm sure most of our parents live. There's going to be, like Robert said, a core that's going to back Trump no matter what. He has dropped considerably in Florida, and it's because of there are northeastern and midwestern migrants recently to Florida who were a big part of Trump's coalition, but they were once populist, like kind of Reagan Democrat voters, and they don't like this stuff. So yeah, I see that. Here's one actually that I thought is and also this is a transcription. I just had to cut it off the bottom. And also, it's only a few hours ago. Wow. It's possible to do things people don't hate and still have them hate you for it because of priorities. This is what it comes down to for the dummies at Red State and, the Davis camp. Okay. You don't have to get it all through Congress, what Robert and I were saying. They just want you to focus on them. And I told the administration this is about optics and perception. Obama didn't get shit done either, but they thought he was fighting for them. And why? Because he prioritized it. Maybe it wasn't real. It doesn't matter. He prioritized their issues in his speeches, in his schedule, in his remarks, in his agenda with Congress, in his fights with the Republican majority. He prioritized them, not other nations, not foreign wars. This is basically a lost Republican opportunity because Republicans had a chance to pass something before campaign season. In retrospect, the boldest actions of the Trump administration will be against Iran, not against the federal government and not against a broken economy. That was one of the more like lucid and very well worded responses, comments.
Probably more polite than
way more polite, bro. You'll see. I have to bleep out a lot of this stuff. It's going to actually take us like 2 days to process. People are pissed. Very curt. That was a well thought out, kind of longer. Maybe that's like one on the longer side. Most people were so angry they didn't even want to talk very long. They had one sentence or so, and that's it. And it was sad.
If on the Democratic side, I would take that off messaging. I'd make it the whole campaign, Epstein class versus the working class. Epstein class versus the working class.
Dude, George is not competitive.
I would cover some of Trump's promises, and I would show him flipping people off. When Trump promised the working class this, now what is Trump betrayed it? What does he think? What is Trump's message to the working class? Him flipping them off. With his message to people who voted against war. Him
Suckers!
Flipping them off.
That's
over and over and over
Sucker!
again. They could crush him.
They will crush
and they'll crush Republicans with it.
They will crush them. Like, I don't even think it's like not even could. They will. This is going to work. I mean, smart people even, and I know him and I have had our differences, but Ryan Gerdusky, he's just nicer in saying it. But like, he at least gets that part. He's like, look, this is going to work. We're done. We're cooked. He gets it. Operation Epstein Fury. Send your sons to fight and sell your daughters. This admin has to go. I do feel bad for JD and Tulsi. Yeah, I mean, look, you have to understand too, and I'm not saying it matters. Like of course, the public is going to hold Steve, and they're going to hold JD accountable for what this administration does. That they don't understand, nor probably do they care. Like that, he's just the vice president. Not just, he's the vice president. He cannot go against. He can only do what he can do. But it still will stain him. That's the nature of this. That's how it's always gone.
Ask anti-war Hubert Humphrey.
Yeah, I was just talking to Mark Halperin about this. Just saw. He's like, well, Joe Biden, and I was like, yeah, but the Obama administration isn't viewed like that. It actually was a good. It was a good reaction to Trump once they got Trump to shut down the commerce. It was actually like, okay, we're going to return to normal. We're going to return to decency. And they got people to second think the fact that they wanted that much change, and it worked. So Biden was the natural choice, even though he's an idiot. Hide him in the basement and just use him as a symbol. And that's what they did. And then they stole a bunch of votes. And oh, by the way, this will do nothing to help our position against the Chinese in the world, who are really the ones who stole your election in 2020. It's a shame that the Trump administration will be so bogged down with Iran now, they won't even be able to release the evidence that they have so diligently compiled to show.
After we're done using our interceptors and all the rest, if China wants to take Taiwan, now is their perfect opportunity to do it.
Put the blockade up. We were talking about this on book club yesterday. We can't do shit. It doesn't matter if the blockade takes 60, 90 days. What are we going to do? We don't have the rare earth minerals to even use for those tips right now, and China's choking us out of it. Larry's right. Larry, who did Mario Nawal, whatever's show yesterday, I was worried that this would end up being the situation where we fire 7 interceptors at a $200,000 fucking rocket to knock it out of the sky at $45 million a pop. This is exactly what I was worried about. And now the real war, guys, the real war that we needed to prepare for is against the Chinese. Eventually, if you're a realist like I am, eventually, and Mearsheimer and Ken Waltz and all the other smart guys in foreign policy that nobody listens to, you know that the real inevitable fight will be with the Chinese. And we just spent our Asian stockpile. We just blew it. And it's just unbelievable.
And Trump went out and publicly admitted that's what he's going to keep doing. Well, we got global supply. Oh, okay. So you're now broadcasting the world. We're going to have nothing left in about a month.
The admiral tweeted it Saturday night and then deleted it because he was like, oh shit, I can't believe I just tweeted that in public. I think probably somebody was like, dude, delete that. Like, he told the Iranians and the world that we don't have the stockpile to continue knocking these missiles out of the sky. So if you're Iran, you don't even use your
good stuff.
You don't.
You use all your cheap crap.
Yes.
For the first 3 weeks to 4 weeks. Take out the radars so that we'll be flying blind.
Mm-hmm. And that's
use all the cheap crap. Yep. And then the big stuff is coming.
Yep.
The hypersonics are coming.
They released a few for Tel Aviv last night. I mean, smile. Yes. That was horrible. But you could see what they were doing. Have you seen some of them? They released one that's becoming a cluster. So it's like a cluster release when it gets hit. Crazy.
Another one they had moved in the air like this around
the intercept.
People.
So you did.
They don't have that weapons power. They'll fold in 5 seconds. They can't wait for America to come in.
Oh, stupid.
Circulate, by the way, bogus polls that were funded by the CIA and the NED and the USAID through Toronto and Netherlands, saying 80% of the Iranian people couldn't wait to overthrow the government. There's a pollster at the University of Maryland who is the Sadat professorship there. Has polled the Middle East going back 20 years. And what he showed was Iranians would like their economy to be better, but they don't have any great desire to look like Libya or look like Syria or look like Iraq. They've seen in live time what regime change looks like. They're like, we don't want anything. They have their problems with the regime. They have no interest in that chaos, no interest in that civil war. That's why
that's obviously the case. Like, even if you didn't know that research, you can see from the events on the ground, that's obviously was not true. And Robert, war separates the boys from the men. This separates the principled people from the folder little fairies. Like, this is the real deal. When the war drums beat, when the propaganda lies kick in, when all this stuff that you and I have lived through before, I will give somewhat of a pass to some people who have not lived through this and can't recognize it. But this is when you separate the boys from the men. This is it. This is when you separate who's real, who's for sale, who's full of shit. And obviously, unfortunately, basically everybody was full of shit. And that's it. But the truth is, in our world, everybody was full of shit. Among the American people, they were deadly serious when they thought Donald Trump meant no new wars, and they're going to punish Republicans badly for this. Here we go. Concerns for the U.S. military in Maine, the largest underclass of local Muslims in UAE.
Or the Middle East, I think.
Bahrain. Oh, Middle East. Sorry. Yep. I'm thinking about Susan Collins. I said they're going to get punished. Who look forward to the destruction of American assets. Clearly, Brulem, the 5-finger strategies was they said it. We have studied your defeats to the east of us, to the west of us. They were prepared.
It's the Persians. It's the Persians. They've been around for 2,500 plus years. They have defeated. They ultimately withstood the Mongols. They withstood the Mongols. They're going to go away gently, easily in the good night. They're as weak as Venezuela. What world? This was also not a regime built on the cult of personality like Syria with Assad, like Iraq with Hussein, like Libya with Gaddafi. Contrary to what we built up in the propagandized West, this was not an Ayatollah-driven regime. This was a religious movement of Shia Muslims behind this whole thing.
He martyred himself.
Absolutely. And he was eager to martyr himself.
I'm just saying, yes.
He was 86 years old with prostate cancer. Brother. He was going to be dead in a year. So he obviously didn't expect the timing of it. But now, his granddaughter's killed, daughter-in-law killed, which apparently is going to be the next future Ayatollah. Just had his father, his wife, and his 1-year-old girl killed. Do you think he's going to be, I can't wait to cheer for America now. Yeah. I can't wait to line up and give Donald Trump what he wants now. That's the delusional world Trump has been living in.
Honestly, bro, those deaths show me that there is either that or we're just murderous. Or the Israelis are just murderous.
Well, the Israelis are. They are. Bibi's Israel is murderous. Plenty of people in Israel disagree with what Bibi's doing.
That's true.
That's why he's doing this, because he knows he can't win an election. He can't win an honest election, and he wants to stay out of jail. How do you not know that the girls' school is right next to where you're trying to hit a military facility? You got to kill 100+ young girls. Do you think Iranian public, a deeply proud Persian culture, was going to say, yeah, thank you,
No
America,
problem.
for killing our girl. Woohoo! We can't wait to line the streets for you. What kind of sucker do you have to be to believe that?
I'm telling you, Jack Smith in Myths of Empire is right. We're a myth-believing society. We're easily duped. The good news is, and I don't, I'm 44 myself, guys, so don't take this the wrong way, but younger people aren't as easily duped. They're not myth believers like the older generations are. So, hopefully this will get better. After this is something I'm glad I was hoping somebody would comment about this, because I got a lot of hate and I lost a lot of followers for tweeting something about this, but it's tough shit and it's true. After all this is said and done, these opposing nations will view us as untrustworthy. Actually, our allies too will, and I'll tell you why in a second. The cherry on top, they will have hardliners in power. Okay, here's the deal. When Hillary Clinton failed to honor the deal that Muammar Gaddafi made with George W. Bush to give up his weapons programs in exchange for humanitarian aid and support for the regime, it led to economic crisis and then his downfall. That's why he got stuck like a pig in the street. Leaders around the region and the world, including Kim Jong-un, looked at that and said, I can't ever trust the United States to make a deal with me like that ever again, because if I do, I'll end up stuck like a pig by my own people in my street. So Kim Jong-un, hats off to him, made the right calculation, kept his weapons, and now he's a nuclear power with ICBMs, and he's a real problem. Unlike the Iranians, by the way, who can't hit us at all. The North Koreans are potentially a threat to parts of our territories and continental United States, whereas the Iranians, Mark Levin, is a liar and should be fired from Fox News for the just egregious lies and fear-mongering that he engaged in leading up into this war. ICBMs, nuke tip pointing at major U.S. cities. You're a fucking liar, Mark Levin. You're a disgusting old man, a fat slob, and a liar. You're gross, man. Like, I can't. Gross.
Yeah. He's a racial religious supremacist who wants to steal American assets for the use of his favorite country, Israel.
That's right.
That's who he is. That's who he's always going to be. It's a betrayal of the American people and the American voter, what he has helped facilitate, and the American promise. To this point,
we're to the point with the diplomatic relations, Steve. Like, the Saudis themselves, after the firing started, the Saudis said, you fucked up the timing. Like, you will never be trusted again. The Iranian delegation was told we made real progress and they got hit leaving that meeting. This is not something that the Iranians alone will hold against us for a very long time. When it's part of the culture, when you are a guest in somebody's home, you don't, in good faith, in the Muslim world, you do not do this. This is why, Saladin could have been a brutal son of a bitch, but he honored their cultures and their ways. When you're negotiating in good faith, you don't do this. You don't do it. By the way, that hurt us. What Roosevelt did to the Japanese hurt us for a very long time. And this is, so you can't attack Hillary Clinton if you're a Trump supporter and then say, oh, she did us dirty, did our standing dirty, and not apply the same thing to Donald Trump. What he did, and by the way, we did it last year, but we blamed the Israelis, and there was probably good reason to. It probably was that Trump's version is probably the true version. But this time, we can't. This time it's on us, and this will be held, and our allies will hold this against us too. They will.
Right now, the Trump administration has a reputation of being a very dishonest, dishonorable, deceptive group that will try to sucker and snooker you into fake negotiations to plan to murder you. That's its reputation globally. If people don't know, we actually tried to murder Putin in a similar circumstances.
Just a month ago.
Exactly. The attempted assassination of the Hamas by Israel in Qatar was a similar operation.
Which they tried to blame on the Ukrainians, and then the fucking Russians found the chip. And so, really, where this, so they literally in the middle handed it to the ambassador or something, or
to U.S. officials in Moscow.
Oh my
God! Here it is.
Taped it and broadcast it on Russian television and everywhere else in Eastern Europe. I mean,
the perception is that Trump is unreliable, that Trump is crazy, that Trump is dishonest, that Trump is deceptive. Exactly. This is not good for geopolitical relationships. So that's problem one. Here's problem two. Why is Iran hitting all these U.S. military bases and other facilities, including hotels? They're mostly tracking and tracing where U.S. soldiers and military assets are. However, they're also sending a second message. Their message is, hey, all you Gulf states, cut a deal with the U.S. to be a U.S. proxy in the region under the pretext that they could protect you.
And they can't.
And look at what happens.
Yep.
When the war actually happens, they abandon you for Israel.
That's why.
So what do you think the support is going to be in Bahrain, in Oman, in Qatar, in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia as they wake up to this? You have Saudi princes saying this on the air, saying America's completely betrayed us for Israel. Do you think that's going to mark, like Clay Travis, this will lead to an expansion of Abraham Accords and global peace through the Middle East? What a disgrace. That's, you want, find a retard. All you got to do is find Clay Travis, one of the dumbest Americans on the planet, and absolutely disgraced that he was chosen to replace Rush Limbaugh. Clay Travis picked to replace Rush Limbaugh. This guy, who's he? He's not even good at picking sports. Stick to things that are supposed to be your expertise, and you're not even good at that. But
and he's also a never Trumper, Robert. Clay Travis, anher one. Another never.
Oh, yeah, back to 2016. And here's DeSantis supporter in 2024.
2024.
So that's who all these guys are when you look under the hood while they're running around pretending to be real MAGA. Real MAGA was Owen Schroyer, who went to prison for Donald Trump. That's real MAGA. These other guys are not. But so the whole region is learning a lesson that the U.S. can't protect you.
Yeah.
In fact, the whole world is learning that lesson.
Yep.
That the U.S. will abandon you at the drop of a hat, like we've done the Kurds like a half dozen times throughout the Middle East. And now we're hoping that they come back in to help us take out Iran, by the way. It's like, God bless the Kurds if you're that gullible.
The British, the Kurds, the Germans, you don't ask them to come and help and join the fight if the fight is going well. Okay?
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
That was the first sign that Iraq maybe wasn't popping off the way we thought.
And all these royal regimes are built on, in the future, not based on oil, because they think that will exhaust itself at some point, on diversification into tourism and high-end wealth. Please. Are you going to go to Dubai now if you know it might get hit by Iran next month? Are you going to
Seven-star hotel that was on my bucket list got blasted? I mean, it's
correct.
I'm not laughing because I'm happy about it. I laugh actually in great disappointment and frustration, just so everybody understands. Like, again, I feel like, I don't know what else to do but laugh, guys, like to some of this, because I'm just so disappointed along with the voters, but also like I'm stunned that he did something so foolish. Like even Eric Prince, I'm with
and
Eric
basically
Prince
admitting it.
Like,
every interview he does that he had no plan, had no idea of a plan, thought this would work, and some of it was just ridiculous. Some of the things he's floating are preposterous. I mean, it's like you really believe this is what happens when you shut out any critics.
Yeah.
When Susie Wiles gatekeeps so aggressively that no dissident opinion gets in the room outside of J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard being all alone in the room, saying trying to discourage it, and him wanting to tuning in, like he told Mark Mitchell and other people. He just can't wait to talk to Sean Hannity each night. Oh yeah, tell me how wonderful I am. Tell me how great it is. I mean, that's how delusional he's become. You're seeing it in live time. People are shocked around the world. They're like, this was the rationale? This was the thought process? This was the plan? What a crock.
No Trump administration officials even bothered to appear on the Sunday shows. They didn't even bother. It's a good point. Exfil is bound to happen. Presence of personnel outside embassies, military infrastructure. Signal satellite from China. Can you discuss the impacts of these?
There's trouble all over the place. So we already have protests outside the Pakistani embassy. We started shooting and killing a bunch of protesters outside of it. Bahrain is a Shia majority governed by a Sunni dictator. They can't wait to overthrow their government. This may facilitate that. 20% of Saudi Arabia is Shia. What happens if they rebel now that their religious leader, the equivalent of the Pope to the Catholics, has been murdered by Israel, but Trump was so eager to take credit for it, he claimed he did it. So now the U.S. is responsible for killing the equivalent of the Pope to the Shia Muslim world. You have a big Shia population in Iraq. What do? Where does that go? We've been busy while we're working with the head chopper president of Syria. Literally had pictures of him, founding member of Al Qaeda, al-Nusra, with two heads in his hands. That's who this guy is. That Trump walked around and showed the White House to. And said, look at my wonderful cologne. We released ISIS prisoners from their facilities. ISIS is now back. but probably because we want them to go after and undermine Iran, because ISIS blames Iran, not the United States, for their abolition, because they are a Sunni Muslim radical sect. Iran is a Shia Muslim government. The most terrorism has been by Sunni Muslims, not by Shia Muslims, particularly the Wahhabi version of Sunni Islam, but not the only one. Hamas is not a Shia group. It is a Sunni group. The Hezbollah is a Shia group. But what happens if Hezbollah is able to reconstitute in a meaningful manner? Because now they've got the martyrdom of their Ayatollah. This is why he did it. The Ayatollah was hoping that he would get killed. I'm sure he didn't want.
You're just sitting in the office, quote, carrying out your clerical duties.
Dude, I mean, there couldn't be a perfect purpose for him. That's a perfect finish, to be the martyr of martyrs. He had gone on. He said he goes, my worst nightmare is I die in an accident. My worst nightmare is I die from natural causes. Because then I can't get a chance to die a martyr. This is a man who, in the Iranian world, is seen as not like we in the West see him as this radical, dangerous, crazy, at the mouth. They see him as a very pious religious official who represented the best of Shia Islam. You can disagree with that. It doesn't change. That's how they feel. And that's throughout a whole bunch of polling data. Ignore all the fake polling and other from the CIA Persian expats. I get all the Persian expats hate this regime. That's why they're expats. Their opinion is not representative at all of what is likely to occur within Iran. But so you've got Shia Muslim groups all over the place that could get involved. You got Pakistan and Afghanistan back at it again anyway. So that might spill over at any point. So this easily could turn into a regional conflict, complete collapse of confidence in U.S. Projection
Ability
of power.
To protect, yeah.
I mean, we couldn't beat the Houthis. In 7 weeks, we couldn't beat the Houthis in Yemen, folks. We're going to topple a 90 million plus Persian empire that's been built up, Persian government that's been built up for 50 years to survive exactly
without total war. That's the thing. Like you guys understand. I'm not saying,
and we don't even have the army anymore. We don't even have the army that we had in the 1990s or the early 2000s. We don't have 500,000 troops to send to put in there.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, we would be something if we were, again, in a fight that was like a fight that was because it was an actual real existential threat to us. And it was like, we had to build our army up again. And, we have, incredible technology and training force in the, trained force in the world. But that's not how we fight these things. We've never had a problem killing regime leaders. We've always been fine at doing that. I'm telling you, I do think right now, until I see evidence of the contrary, I think he did martyr himself. I think it's obvious he did. And why? Because I think it's hard for Westerners to understand, like, that if you've never faced Muslims in war, like the idea that these idiots keep saying, like, they're sandal wearing goat herders, we're going to destroy them. Like, respect them or don't at your own peril. They believe. Unlike us, they believe. All right. If you're a Christian, I asked my locals this before. If you're a Christian, okay, and I consider myself a Christian, how strong is your faith? How strong is your faith? Is it strong enough that you really believe you would be able to martyr yourself, and you would be able to, do so knowing without any doubt that Christ will welcome you? Like, they believe like that, they have a level of belief that we're not accustomed to in the Western world. We love life too much, like to not understand who we're engaging into a fight with. And we're always these like tech bros with all these cool toys, not understanding what it means to fight someone who's fighting for their lives when you're not. When your population is sitting comfortably on their fucking couch watching it on Fox News, it's different. And I'll never forget, Robert. I think I've shared this with you, but I'll never forget. You have the watches, we have the time. I will never ever forget hearing that. And I told a story to my locals book club yesterday about somebody who was in the early stages of the war on terror, somebody who was very familiar with fighting Muslims in covert ops and other stuff, and him just like laying in to these stupidly overconfident Rangers who thought this was going to be a joke and a cakewalk. And he was like, you fucking respect them. You respect them. You don't know the enemy. He was just, think about it, like, so much, because 20 years later, I remember, sitting there watching, events on TV, even the exit out of Afghanistan eventually, and words like are recycled in my mind. And who's in charge in Afghanistan right now? The Taliban.
Yeah, we spent 20 years
Yep.
to replace the Taliban.
As it turned out, they did
with
have,
the Taliban.
As it
And by the way,
turned out,
we replaced one
had
Ayatollah with another Ayatollah.
Another
We're
one.
replacing one Khomeini with another Khomeini. I mean, except now he has more reason to hate America than ever before. And you've got the the Shia revenge has been put out. So yes, to your question, and then is China helping and Russia helping? Yes, both are. China is now publicly publishing all the detailed aspects of our military bases in the region to the world. Why might you think they'd be doing that? Who might they be giving a roadmap to? Local militias, local terror groups, maybe saying, "Here's where this is. Here's where this is. Here's where this is." These people are like, "Oh, this is 4D chess take out China, Bob, because they're going to be able to cut off that Iranian oil." Well, if you really think that's the case, do you think China was going to sit on the sidelines? Or do you think China was going to prove that America is as impotent now as it was in Vietnam? And that's what they're out to show. And unfortunately, I think that's more likely than less.
The longer it goes on, the more likely it becomes.
Oh, yes.
Story. I mean, that's it. Like, that's why not having an exit here. Like, I mean, people, this is stupid shit in response to what we're saying. Like, just incredibly dumb shit. Like, oh, you're anti-American. You're cheering for the Iranians. Like, shut the fuck up with your stupidity. Can we have an adult conversation? How many times are you going to do the same stupid things and expect a different result? They're not dumb. This is an ancient civilization. They've been planning this for years. You think you just got one over on them? He martyred himself. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. Zero. And by the way, you ready to print more money? You ready to print more money? Go look at Bloomberg right now. They're actually tracking it, which I can't believe they're doing. Can we not do stuff like this? Like track how many interceptors we have left? This is crazy. Trump had to come out and say publicly, oh, we have some stashed all over Asia. Right, Trump? They were for Asia.
Right.
They weren't for Israel.
Everybody, super 4D chess. We're going to leave Taiwan totally abandoned. Want you and China to know we're taking out all our defenses over to defend Israel. To take out Iran.
You guys are clowning yourselves. Clowning yourselves. New U.S. reps, senators are always subverted by the system via some deep state standard playbook. Is there also a playbook used against presidents?
Oh, there definitely is. Yes. I mean, Vladimir Putin described it years ago. He said, look, I think a lot of these American presidents want to do well, want to keep their promises, but then they get in there and the men in gray suits show up. And they take over and explain how it's going to work. George W. Bush admitted this to Glenn Beck. Yeah. He said it was going to happen to Barack Obama. He goes, you can have all the plans you want. You get in here. These people really run the show. I wasn't running nothing. I mean, he was, admitted that.
And then Obama just admitted it in this interview to promote his Netflix thing coming up about that abduction with the biracial couple in New Hampshire in the late 50s and early 60s.
It's clear, given the timing, that this is about the Epstein files. They somehow used the Epstein files to extort Trump into running an Israel first deep state donor-driven agenda that sabotaged and betrayed the American people.
And even if it isn't, that's what Americans are going to think forever. Anyway,
oh, exactly. And the timing is too obvious.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, Americans are very simple with their stories, how they put things together. And the funny thing is, Robert, they're like almost always right. They're almost always right. It's like Occam's razor. Don't give me all this other bullshit. Occam's razor. Trump is blackmailed by Bibi. Bibi's got him bent over. We're in a humiliation ritual. And Trump is his you-know-what. And that's it. That's all. That's all they're going to think. I don't care what you do. Well, this is not right. This president makes his own decisions. He is his own boss. Okay, stop it. That's not what the country's going to think. Doesn't matter even if that was true. How you played this is the American public will never see it like that from now on. Just the way they never believe that George W. Bush didn't go into Iraq for oil. This is that same kind of thing. It will follow Trump like that. The way that war for oil followed George W. Bush. Period. I get the domestic fallout of this. I also see the Dems shooting themselves in the face when they take power too in the midterms. Well, this is why Robert and I put there's a 25% chance that JD can recover from this because they do tend to go nuts. I just think, Norm, the problem is they're going to go apeshit. And they have, unlike in 2018 and unlike in 2020, they are going to, I know the narrative they're going to tell. about the administration when they get into power. I know what they plan on doing, and it's going to be hard for you to hear. Like, it's going to be hard for Trump supporters to hear. These allegations are not going to be like a fake transcript between Zelensky and Trump to get, like, they don't have to fake things this time. And it's going to be hard for everybody to like come to grips with. Will there be core supporters to rally behind him? Yeah. There will also be huge amounts that abandon him. There will also be, the independents will be 65-20 against him, 70-30 maybe. You know, actually, no, because he's at 30 now, 26-30 now. He'll fall in the low 20s with independents when this is over. He will. I mean, sorry.
And I think I agree that there's an absolute chance I think Democrats will have one chance to fix this. I think this was the one Republican chance. They might get another one, but I think otherwise our politics in
God,
our politics in the UK tend to really parallel. And if you've been watching, in the next parliamentary election, just happened in another election. I mean, they held an election outside of Birmingham. I had is in honor of the Peaky Blinders from characters from Birmingham, or Birmingham, however they say it there in the UK. And the Tories, the Labour Party, and the Liberal Democratic Party have dominated English elections for more than a century. There is a good chance in the next parliamentary election that they hold almost no power at all, that all three are wiped out and gone, replaced by the Greens on the left and Reform on the right. And so what does that mean? That tells you that that's why we pulled the Massey challenge. There is increasing demand very early already in America for some third-party independent. I always thought it'd be difficult to do. Now, increasingly, I think not. I think if Republicans don't reverse course, or Vance doesn't find a way to build back the coalition, and the Democrats come in and completely screw it up again, I think in 2032, you may see a president and majority party that is not the Democrats and not the Republicans. That's how rapidly that change could happen, because Americans are deeply unsatisfied with continued partisan betrayal. And that, Republican runs, says no more war, gets us in a war. Democrat runs, says no new war, gets us in a war. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And now even Donald Trump, who campaigned on it for a decade, I don't think they can keep right now. Democrats will get the benefit of this, but if they don't deliver for the populist base, then they can get wiped out just as much. But it may not redound to Republican benefit. You may be seeing third-party real surge take over, like it did in the 1860s with the Republican Party, like it did in the 1820s with the Democrat Party. You might see these parties erased overnight if they continue to fail to deliver the American people. Yeah,
I'm in that kind of category. Like, at some point, like, you can't continue the back and forth forever. No, it doesn't work that way. Human history shows us that we're not going to be special. Like, I think a lot of people, especially Americans, and it's just true, we have like this false sense of security that everything's just going to kind of stay the same and there's not going to be any dramatic change. That's a delusion. That's a delusion. All right. So, and it's one even I want to believe sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, I think that some of the more dire, and you brought up before, like, makes Candace look sane, makes Nick look prescient. Like, this is the shit that I really worried about bad. Like, I tried, Robert, one of the things I really tried to impress upon them was like the gravity of their their gravity of this moment and the responsibility that they have, knowing this, that so many people looked at them as their last chance. And if they fail, look what, Bush failed them. It led to Obama. What do you think? And by the way, Obama failing them led to you. What the hell do you think it's going to look like when you fail? At some point, those failures steamroll, like going downhill, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And until it hits something and just breaks everything. And like, that's where we're headed. At some point, the left has already kind of concluded that the system isn't worth respecting. You game it any way you can. The right hasn't done that yet, except for grifters just hurt MAGA bad, who obviously do believe that. But I'm talking about the people. Once they realize, like, when Trump's letdown is going to lead to a lot more people on the right coming to the conclusion that this shit don't work anymore. And then, guys, once you have all factions in a society, all political factions come to that conclusion, that's when it's over. I mean, that's when real damaging, usually violent change happens. And you have like the Cenk Uygur, wing that is representative of that left-wing populism, where it's like, doesn't matter who the hell we vote for. We could vote for Barack Obama. We could vote for Donald Trump. We still get wars for Israel in the Middle East. Like, once everybody, both sides, or at least not even everybody, the majority on both sides realize that that is the case, this system comes apart. Over. It's done. I don't care how strong you think our institutions are. I don't care what you think. That, ancient civilizations built monuments and institutions a lot more impressive and bigger than we ever had. And where are they now? Fucking dustbin of history. That's what happens. I mean, we're not going to be an exception because what? God's ordained it. In case you haven't noticed, look around. I don't think God's really going to give two shits at this point what happens to us. You make your bed, you lie in it. This doomsday Zionism philosophy did us real dirty on the right. It really did. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, it did. First of all, I just don't believe it. I think it's heresy. But second of all, like, it's the equivalent of the left version of climate change. Like, George Carlin used to make fun of the left. Like, yeah, sure, you're going to stop climate change by not using paper bags. That's how arrogant you think you are. Like, the right thinks they're going to usher Jesus back. Like, you're both sides. You're both out of your minds. You're not going to tell God when his plan is going to be. In fact, he may smite your ass for thinking you have the any influence in it whatsoever. I mean, it's just crazy to lose. Like,
ask the builders of the Tower of Babel how that worked out, believing they could replace God.
Yeah, and exactly. Like, and when you listen to the interview, like Huckabee had it with Tucker, you realize, wow, they're this is religious fanaticism. This is not normal. Yeah, he's a fucking kook, Robert. He's a kook, and God help anybody he's ever ministered for the purpose of saving a soul. Because if he pointed them down that path, then I think he should read the book of Matthew a little bit closer, because Huckabee sounds a lot like the people Christ was warning about. They will tell you crazy shit in my name. All right, like this is a man who was born and raised and ministered under Roman occupation. Yet he said, turn the other cheek. Somehow now, 2,000 years later, we're supposed to rise up and defend the people of Israel when he wouldn't, and commit grotesque acts of violence on their behalf. It's
for people who are deeply anti-religious. The majority of the Zionist movement has long been anti-Jewish in its religious beliefs.
We've been over.
That's why so many Orthodox Jews don't like Zionism and have long critiqued and condemned Zionism.
It's new, bro. It started in the
completely.
70s. We've been through this. We had like this. Is Zionism as an idea new? No, it's got its roots. We could show you all the way back in this one when England was still an empire and it was in the Anglican Church. Yeah, of course. But was it a predominant view in Christian America until the late 1970s when But when the Likud party began to get political power and dominance and began to fund televangelists and evangelicals in America like Pat Robertson and Pastor Hagee no, the answer is no. That was a money relationship that started that thinking. Previous generations did not believe in that. In fact, most of them held it as heretical. I mean, the Schofield Bible was heresy, bro. I mean, we already did this episode. Go search for it. And I did one myself, by the way, either in between the numbers or inside the numbers. I saw an incredible lecture on this, by the way, which one day maybe I'll play because I do have it on video. And then when they penetrated Reagan is really when they got in Reagan's administration is really when they were able to mainstream it. And and by the way, it's not Gallup's research has shown, Pew too, but others like Gallup and our own, but Gallup's been doing it longer, has shown that actually did great damage to the body of Christ, because Americans, Cernovich is right. Americans were never comfortable with the idea of marrying their religion to a foreign policy obligation. They were never comfortable with that, coupled with these very prominent Zionist pastors and televangelists getting caught banging their secretaries, bro. And it was or touching little boys or whatever it may be. Gallup has done a lot on this. You guys should go do it. And go look at it. I mean, I could probably do 3 episodes on it. American politics is Back to the Future on loop. where the party says, look, Biff, what's that? And we look and get shoved into the manure over and over. Life of Brian, you may win the comment of the day for this one. That's
no doubt. I got to hop off because I got to hop on with Viva. We're talking to Jim Carlin. Jim Carlin's running for the Senate in Iowa. I know it's an uphill battle, but he's running on good populist issues, running on good populist ideas. So we want to platform and get his voice out and encourage, incentivize others to do it. So
Laura
be over.
Just messaged me. You aware you're an hour over? That's what she just said. I said there's a lot of comments. I messaged her back. Go ahead. I'll speak through them the best I can. All right.
Yeah, that sounds good. But thanks everybody. We'll continue to put up political predictions at sportspicks.locals.com. We'll be including. Say it again.
What time are you starting with Viva?
3. So about 7 minutes.
I'll try to speed this. I will try to I'm serious. I'm gonna speed run it to get through. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Later, Robert.
Thanks, everybody.
Sportspicks.locals.com. Everybody go
17, and we'll be continuing to include all of this data and information on policy proposals and existing cases at 1776lawcenter.com. So those are the places to go. Otherwise, vivabarneslaw.locals.com is always fun. If you want to look at the hush-hushes as to how we really got into some of these wars, you can go there. But otherwise, keep the faith, keep the hope. As long as the American people care, then there is always opportunity for the world to get a better place, even if certain presidents and politicians go AWOL from time to time.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody.
All the best, brother. And Robert, you might have noticed was viral all weekend long about predicting the sweep. All right. I'm going to try to go through this super quick because I am myself even running out of time. He knows this was a bad idea, right? Did he want to do this or was he convinced? He didn't want to do it. Great Dems back in 28 and flood the country with people again. He didn't want to do it. This is why, I got to tell you, I do give credence to what Robert said about, listen, guys, as bad as some of the stuff is in the Epstein files, what did they shred? What was the real stuff and where'd it go? There's no way they were ever going to let us see the real juicy stuff. I don't think Trump ever did anything wrong in the Epstein files. I just think he does still care too much about protecting the wrong people. And there's that part. And I do think also Trump is preparing for when Trump is no longer in power and they come after him again. I think, the lawfare changed him. I do. I'm sorry. That's my personal opinion. He didn't want to do this. Tucker wasn't lying. He's not a guy who loves war. He doesn't love death. You think he wants to go down as the war president? I refuse to believe that. I really do. I just think something happened here that's beyond us. And, he was given all the correct information and he chose to spin it into the wrong decision. So usually in my experience, that tells me there's something that we didn't know. And I don't mean some threat from Iran. There's something that mattered more to him. All right. Is Vance done? I think we answered some of that. Look, man, at this point, I tell them I'll revisit it every few months because, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months is a long time in politics. But at this point, if I was today, again, having a conversation with the vice president over what I think his plan should be, I think he should wait. I think it's going to be hard for him to get out from underneath this. There's going to be way too many things that, Rubio can run against him. Rubio will betray him. People in the White House are going to betray him and back Rubio. That's already underway. It's already happening. It was always the plan. They don't want the base of power in the Republican Party in Ohio or with the people in the Midwest. They want it in Florida with the people who tried to sell Ron DeSantis' governorship for access. It's sad, but that's the truth. And, it's coming. So the question is it smarter to fight the uphill battle and to fight those people too, who are going to end up all for what? The likelihood you're going to lose anyway. If this environment continues, again, we've always been I think we're right. I'm not saying we're the most favorable pollster to Vance because we're favorable to him. I just think we poll MAGA the best in the country, as I have for 10 years. And I think I know who motivates people to vote and who doesn't. Vance was never down. He's down now by a margin that is 2 points below the margin that his highest margin over Gavin Newsom. All right. So he's in bad shape. And I think this environment will only get worse. It's going to be at some point, the vice president is going to have to try to somewhat distance himself from the bad decisions that have been made. Otherwise, he simply won't be able to put together a coalition that's big enough. I just can't, it's like so painful to try to explain it to these dumb consultants in DC. It's the same way I tried to do it when Ron DeSantis was running. I'm like, don't humiliate yourself. Donald Trump is going to beat you. He's going to beat you badly. Wait. You can be relevant. You can do other things. He didn't listen. He got talked into it by the Jeff Rowe crowd, and he got annihilated. So I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, I think we're at a point right now where Vance is probably better off waiting. Now we can revisit that again in 3 or 6 months, but at this point, I don't see a viable way forward if he wants to be president. He could win the nomination. Probably he could, he could use he's still, despite the AstroTurf Rubio polls, Rubio is rising polls. That's all bullshit. Despite that, he's in command of the nomination, but it's like, okay, at what point do you say this isn't the optimal year, right? Some people are visual learners. You should create an event tree and show how many and which seats Trump lost with each misstep he made. Just saying he's losing votes, getting lost on these people. That's why I started with this, Casey. We should probably use, it's funny you say that because I have been flirting with the idea of doing something like that with like a parliamentary tree, something like that, which is why I started with this one for people who haven't seen it. Let me stop the screen share from the other thing and put this up. I just canceled it. Is presidential approval rating. Maybe some people haven't seen this. I renamed it to event chart because after listening to some people's feedback, maybe perhaps I was a little bit insensitive by saying the TART chart. All right, but we are going to continue to add events to this. I'll be updating this with this new approval rating soon. Spoiler alert, it's worse. All right, so you can see here, very, very obvious that when the lobbying after the Gaza ceasefire ended, the lobbying started hitting him and his administration and distracting him. And you could see the domestic policy focus get twisted and him trying to pass the BBB, all that combined, and the basically senators like Tel Aviv, Ted Cruz, saying, I'm not going to vote for it if you don't, commit to some strikes in Israel, using his vote to try to push Donald Trump into doing something. That's when this all went off the rails. And then, the Epstein thing, which very much, whether people want to admit it or not, is linked. It is an issue that runs parallel to the war issue in the minds of voters. It just hit him at the completely wrong time. And how he mishandled it was just totally the wrong way to do it. And I mean, it was just so easy too. The alternative in the right way was easy. He just decided not to do that. He felt like he didn't have to explain himself to the voters. And again, I think that's what I'm saying, like part of it when I say that I think lawfare and a lot of other things changed him. In case you guys haven't noticed, how he talks to voters is the last warning from Rush Limbaugh not to do, and yet he did it anyway. I think there's like a bitterness there that we did not see during the first Trump administration. He loved people, and it's missing now very, very clearly. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I agree with you, Casey, and I'll definitely flirting with the ideas. We'll get on it. I will do it, is what I'm saying. I think that's good, especially if we do one maybe by region and then division too, and then to show how that impacts certain, voters that they'll need to win X seat or, Y Senate seat, right? Massey 28. Yeah, I think that calls like that for an independent candidate are going to grow. They're going to grow. Do you think the deep state purposely used the Venezuela mission to psychologically set up Trump from Iran? I'm convinced now. We talked about this in book club a little bit yesterday. I think they convinced, well, you got away with that. Look at how well that went. That happened. So, and he latched on to it in his decision-making process. Like, I know it's unpopular now, but if this goes well, look what happened with Maduro. And that's totally wrong. Maduro is not Iran. Or the Ayatollah for that matter, but also it was the symbol, the Middle East. That was the worst. Like Maduro's in our own hemisphere. Donald Trump didn't destroy one of the strongest political family dynasties in this country by attacking their overextensions in Latin America. You know what I mean? It's different. It's different in the psychology of voters. Them saying it'll take weeks reminds me of 2 weeks of flattening the curve. I tweeted yesterday, 15 days to slow the Shia. And then, right away, Donald Trump, 10 minutes later, was like, it may take 4 weeks. And I'm like, holy shit, 15 weeks to slow the Shia turned into 30 days to slow the Shia real quick. I totally agree. I see that. Everything Barnes said about Davis applies to Trump. What Barnes says about Trump applies to Vance. Barnes is real soft on the GOP, is being real soft on the GOP. I just think, I know he's not for real, but it may come across that way, Brian. But it's because, at some point, I think Barnes, like a lot of voters, hold Trump personal. This is personal with Trump now on this one. This is personal, Barnes is anti-war, and as so many other Americans are, and they believed him, and this is, no one is going to be able to blame Susie for this one, which I think she gets blamed for too much shit, honestly, but no one's going to be able to blame the GOP for pushing him into this. He's the president. He's the president. He's the president because he promised not to do this. And it's so tough. So I think he does deserve an unparalleled amount of criticism. Does this admin thing still not end up like Bolsonaro in Brazil? Madam President AOC will do to Trump what MAGA wish it was done to the left. Yeah. That's there. This is the miscalculation. This is the miscalculation. The big one. That's the big one. On how many people care if a politician received money from an AIPAC or an AIPAC affiliated organization, such as a super PAC. Not yet. We should, though, and not just AIPAC, right? Because listen, I've been having this idea, this plan where I want to do this website. I just need to find a credible liberal. And for a while, I was flirting with the idea of trying to reach out to Cenk Unger over this, where there should be a tool that's way better than Open Secrets to tell people who owns who, and openly state it like that. Because let's face it, money buys shit, guys. And AIPAC would just be one of them. But, Big Pharma, the military, Lockheed Martin, whatever it may be. People should have that information available to them. The reason why I think AIPAC does warrant extra attention is because AIPAC has been spending more money than anybody. It's not even remotely close. And it started after the October 23 attack on Israel. They started pumping in an enormous amount of money into the system. This year is going to be, again, a ridiculous amount for any PAC, let alone a PAC that's dedicated to a foreign nation's interests. So, and don't give me the bullshit that they're American citizens. Oh, go fuck yourself with that lie. Yeah, and Planned Parenthood doesn't use taxpayer funds for abortion. Blow me, dude. Enough with that nonsense. Obviously, they put Israel first here, didn't they? Everybody knows this is going to weaken the Republican coalition. Everybody knows this will have a negative impact on the midterms. So who did you put first? Right. But we should. And I also want to eventually get on that thing, I mean, I think, we've addressed some of this, maybe Dems going crazy again. Yeah, that's why we probably put that somewhere in the neighborhood of 25% that he'd be able to explain it. They could do something so crazy that Americans will say, well, it's worse that Vance did this. Here's the problem with that, though. Democrats are devoted and they're going to come out no matter what. That is not true of the rights coalition. The rights coalition is filled with low prop normies now. That's what Trump put together to win. And they'll feel betrayed and they will just say, I don't care. I'm not going to vote for either one of them. Right? Because to them, Democrats would have to do something absolutely nuts. And I mean, way beyond their normal nuts, So we'll see. But that's why we still put it at somewhere around 25. There should be a poly market odds on whether Trump becomes a resident of Israel in 2028. There should be. Absolutely. Or somewhere. Actually, the market should be Israel, Australia, all these other places where they're looking into property. Rich, wake up, please. They aren't fighting because the establishment's plans are going perfectly. There are no Republicans, none, zero, nada. Yeah. Finally tuned. Yeah. You know, it's funny because the moments like these is when you realize like culture wars, or at least you hope people realize, and I think people are, when you realize things like culture wars where Republicans and Democrats fight over, it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit to keep us at each other's throats and preventing us from realizing that, in fact, they really are the same. And they hate us, obviously. Obviously. They don't care about our problems at all. And the only thing is that, like I said, the only thing is that they'll convince Republicans to do the stupid shit like this. No Democrats they'll come out and be against it now because they know the politics of it. But did you really see a Democratic effort to stop Donald Trump from attacking Iran? AIPAC dips in both sides. And again, you can't have a favorable opinion of AIPAC and be a right-winger who thinks that Democrats are a threat to the survival of the country and our way of life. If you do think that, then you cannot be in a political coalition, in league with, or friendly to an organization like AIPAC that plays both sides of the fence. It doesn't, there's two guys, I'm just trying to point out the inconsistencies here. This is why the right is losing. The left doesn't have these inconsistencies. The right does. That's why they're losing. Rich Barnes, 37, white, Monmouth, New Jersey. Oh, that's my old stomping ground. Voted for Trump 3 times, and I can tell you after this, I'm confident I will no longer be participating for the foreseeable future, nor will the majority of friends and fam. Yeah, I mean, look, anyone on social media cheerleading this war and dismissing this is a moron. A moron. Or their loyalty is just not to you, and it's just not to the country. You can't ask people to continue to give you their support if you don't support them. And the other party is worse is not an argument. You're asking for serfs. You're asking this gentleman to be a serf. That's what you're asking for. He doesn't owe you that. He doesn't owe you shit anymore. Because you have a fake ass, weak ass argument for why they should still support you even after you totally betrayed them. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Now, do I personally agree? You know what? Yesterday, I probably would have said, yeah, I mean, I still get that argument. And I always, did think, I'm going to stay true to my principles. And I always did think Democrats are but guys, when you talk to as many voters as I do, they're very persuasive. Very persuasive. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet, honestly. I don't know. Roy Cooper is a nutcase. I have to choose between Michael Watley and Roy Cooper in my state. So pray for me. Trump just needs to say it was 40 chess to expose the Epstein class and Rhino neocons, actually fulfill his campaign promises for the next 6 months. Povang, what he needs to do right now is tell the neocons to go F off, tell Benjamin Netanyahu he's not welcome here for at least another 12 to 15 months, and call it victory. Like Barnes and I were saying, the Ayatollah is dead. Great. Rise up or don't rise up. I don't give a shit. We won. I'm coming home. And that's it. Like, that's all. I mean, there are bodies now piling up. You keep this going on for 2 weeks at this pace. Let me do some quick math. Actually, 4 weeks, you said, right? Hold on. All right. So if every 2, there's 4. Okay. Oh, my God. You're talking about a nice size body count. This is not you just won't be able to do this. Divided by 2. Okay. Times 4. You're talking around 60 dead troops if it goes on for a couple of weeks. And that's without the, that math is flawed because the interceptors are going to run out. So there will be an increased number of deaths. or they're at least, it's likely that's going to be devastating politically. Devastating. It's somehow Vance became president for the next year. Would he try and change the course? I know. I'm going to say, yeah, I think so. I think he would. I think he would try. Would he succeed? I don't know. But I do think he would try. I'm telling you, the vice president's a good man. He is. All right. I've met a lot of people in this game. The vice president is a good man. He does care what you think. He does care about your problems. He does want to solve them. Is the blob too much? I don't know. Vance can go against. He can resign anytime, but it's clear he values his fancy job title and flying on Air Force Two more than his principles. I mean, it's easy for us to say that. Let me ask you this, because I believe me, I've thought the same thing. What if you think you can do better for the country in that position? Maybe you didn't succeed here to stop this. Maybe you didn't succeed in trying to stop Trump from going nuts on MTG. What if you didn't succeed in this, preventing this fight with Massey, but you still think you're doing good elsewhere? Isn't it better to stay there and continue to try to do good as long as you have the energy to do it? I guess. Is it hurting him politically? Yeah. So maybe that tells us something about Vance, the vice president, that he's willing to sacrifice his own political viability to get even if they're little wins, because believe me, I've thought the same thing you thought. I have. Like, bro, just resign. Oh my God, run for the fucking hills. Like, why? Because I know, I don't think JD Vance is the most articulate, the most talented, and the most attractive candidate the right has had in a long time. And if we squander him on an administration that goes badly, we're going to regret it. Marco Rubio may be very, very polished to the rhino types, but he will get his ass kicked. Rubio will get crushed. He won't win Wisconsin. He's going to get 33% in Bayfield and Ashland, Douglas. He's not getting anywhere near 45%. He's definitely losing Michigan. And he's not winning Pennsylvania. Can we just cut the shit? That is not going to happen. We're going back to like 2016 again, where Jeb Bush was the only one who led Hillary Clinton in the polls. Bro, suck it. What state was Jeb Bush going to win in the Midwest? Please. And they all try to say Wisconsin. Well, a little reality check for you. Wisconsin was the closest in 24 in an otherwise fairly easy to win election. Wisconsin was this close. Trump won Michigan and Pennsylvania easy. If RFK or Tulsi ran in 2028, do you think there is much chance they'd win? Well, right now, I mean, no, not yet. Although I do think that more and more, like I said, I think the window's closed on the Republicans to complete the realignment like this. They will not do it with Trump. It's not going to happen. And at some point, I think it's more likely Democrats. I don't think it's more likely. They are. You can see it in early voting already. They're benefiting from people who voted for Donald Trump. I just don't know if it's, how permanent the realignment's going to be, but very clearly, like I said, like if maybe RFK and Tulsi is the answer here for the right, something like that. Because Vance Tulsi is the strongest ticket we've pulled. JD Vance at the top, Tulsi Gabbard is the VP. That's the strongest ticket we have pulled going up against various Democratic tickets. Maybe that's the answer, but for right now, as it is right now, I mean, that's the problem. Vance will be connected like to anything here. It's not good. It's tough. It's tough. Maybe that ends up the case, but they got to do something to prevent the Democrats from continuing to take all these voters, because they're not registering yet everywhere as Democrats, but they're just voting. They're voting for them. How long before our ships are out of ammo and get trapped because the Straits of Hormuz are closed? Or at least we're going to need to do something drastic to make sure that they do get out and pave their way. It's a good question. My chats were connected. I met exfil of info by local Muslims in GCC in regards to American allied personnel to Iran for targets, hotels, apps. I already think that's probably happening. I mean, not probably. It is. I got message yesterday about Uber. Hold on, I'll tell you guys right now so you don't. Like, it was like anyone who has a security clearance or active duty personnel, turn off your location devices, turn off location on all your electronic devices, and get rid of Uber, Talibet, and Snapchat. They've been compromised. And what I heard was the Pakistanis helped the Iranians hack these apps. So, yeah, I think that we're probably, we're not on high alert for nothing. The base over here is extra security, beefed up. There's like a program where you can bring other people onto the base. It's not allowed right now. So, it's serious. What's going on is serious. We guys got to keep vigilant, even if you're in a small town. Go to church on Sundays. Please be careful. Keep your eyes open. Situation awareness. It's no joke. I'm Gen Z. I live in Tennessee. We have a group of 30 plus friends, all 3-time Trump voters. They're out. Will not vote in the midterms. George W.'s third term. I mean, that's a great way to end the show, because I think that honestly, Chamber 67 is speaking for a lot of people. Owen said Trump burned the populist right for a decade. It's Virginia's the preview of the left's plan for the national stage. Run on moderate issues. They are unpopular, but they just ram through their radical agendas once they get in. Centralized control of the office. If so, there's not enough left. Is there enough left in the tank to handle the damage given the relation Americans have to our institutions? I think that's honestly the worst, worst case scenario, but that's what everyone's worst case fear. That's everyone's fear. I know. Look, I forgot about the comments on locals. Let me try to get through as many as I can. Hope for the better. Ted Cruz is already saying there was no knowledge of nukes. Yeah, it was a scam, total scam. Pentagon is saying there was no intelligence that Iran was going to launch that strike. Will the deep state throw him under the bus? No, they'll just continue like nothing happened. This sucker. We're all suckers. They got what they wanted. We're suckers, man. They got it. My son's home. MAGA will be replaced by America. For Ryan, thank you for saying this. While we say MAGA is dead, Trump's MAGA is dead, it is. America first will survive. The ideas will survive. America first. American only. I don't know how far that'll go, but I do hear what you're saying. It'll be a closer brand of that. But Trump's MAGA is dead. The window for that realignment is closed, and Trump will be remembered as the guy who broke his promise for no new wars in the Middle East. I don't like saying that. I hate it. I have fucking nightmares over it. It's plaguing my dreams. I'm like, I'm going to wake up. This is going to be a bad dream. But that is the truth. Rich and Robert, in gratitude on Saturday, I joined your locals. Oh, man, that's awesome. Thank you, Polly. Rich, while I was still listening to your valiant road rage and became a 1776 supporter member, I couldn't afford it in a one-time. Many happy and sad changes for my family, but I also need to help for the sake of all my dear family and friends, and say thanks for standing up for peace and justice and the Constitution. Comments like that, Polly, they mean a lot right now, because as you can imagine, I'm taking an awful lot of incoming fire, and it's not fun. I think I lost I don't know. I was at 355,000 on Twitter. I'm at 352.5 thousand. You know what? I don't even want those people. This is how vindictive I'm going to be, because I know I'm going to be right. On election night, I'm going to block their ability to refollow me. So I've been like tracking who unfollowed me when. I have a whole list, and I'm not a big blocker, but I'm going to be a little bit vindictive this time, and I'm just going to block them and their ability to I don't want them back. They're drone brains. Though, like I went on that little rant before about weak-minded people. I don't want to be associated with weak-minded people who have no principles, and I'm done with it. I'm a fighter. I mean, this thing over the last 72 hours, we were going to lose anyway. So, F it. Let's attack Iran. You're disgusting. You disgust me. Like I just don't want to be associated with weak people. You gave the country to the Democrats for Israel. You idiots. You stupid idiots. And for those of us who actually suffer, has your name ever been on a government list that Democrats put together? Mine has. They got no skin in the game. Like I said, Ben Shapiro, little Benji, plays his little violin, wants to be the first Supreme Court justice. Bro, you could have joined. Go join the IDF. You could have joined the IDF. You fucking hated terrorists so bad after 9/11. You could have joined the American military. I'm like so sick of being lectured by these people. And then they have no fight in them. The only thing they can fight is their own voter. They're cowards. Cowards. They're weaklings. They're small-minded. They're cowards. They have no spine. It's just disgusting. I want nothing to do with them anymore, or anybody who follows them or thinks they're smart. Oh my God, Ginger. That one is an amazing. Oh, we're getting stuff like this all through polling, which I can't wait to share with you guys. Look at this meme. Oh, Lord. Wow. This is the kind of thing will be forever remembered. That's it. Like, this is what Trump has done to himself. Do I like it? No, I can't stand it. It breaks my heart, but this is what it will be forever. Sucks. It's sad. It's really sad. All right. On his latest press release, he straight up says the U.S. and its partners launched an offensive operation. Oh, give me. I know. So, son of a Mitch. I know. It's like this was for Israel. Stop it. And stop. Don't dare try to sell us lies about preemptive strikes. It's ridiculous. Operation Epstein Fury. That's a good meme right there, too. That'll be it forever. Sad. Yeah, Ryan says JD should just resign and go win his Senate seat. Right, because John Usad is down right now. So sad. Look at this meme. Because Trump, my son's here. Which one do you need keys for, son? The boy. Oh my God. Ask your get my gym bag. It's somewhere over there. Yeah, she wasn't feeling well. She messaged me before to tell me she was over. Thank you for going. Hold on one second, guys. When is that? I could do it now, like after I pick up the boy. You're gonna take my car and go look by the Nook. Is it by the Nook? Yes. Okay, bring it to me. I'm so sorry to interrupt. It's okay. It's all right. Not knowing Trump answered, I picked someone, but I killed him. Yeah, actually, killed a couple of. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but they asked Trump, they're like, hey, who's going to take over? Now the guy told his dad, if you get regime change. And he was like, I had someone in mind, but I killed them. He killed them on the airstrikes on accident. Bro. Yeah. That's good. And then he went on to say they were so good, I killed them. It's like, it's just, it's a shit show. Why isn't the Trump admin and O'Connor updated procedures for upcoming census while they still have control? Because they're stupid, Dread Robert. Exactly. The Supreme Court said you didn't take enough time to go through the procedures that you are expected to go through. You tried to, this is what they told Wilbur Ross and the last Commerce Secretary. You tried to ram it through without comment and all the other, they should be all over this. It should be number one. Democrats instantly lose 20 House seats if we don't count illegal aliens in the next census. Instantly. The presidency will be like, again, nothing's impossible, but it'll be damn near impossible for them to win the presidency. It will be extremely hard. Remember how Mitt Romney, like at that time, he had to pull like an inside, what was it? Like a royal straight flush, they called it. You had to win it all. Everything that Obama took from McCain out of the Red Bush coalition, plus you had to add one or two out of the blue. Ridiculous. It was never going to happen, you know? That screwy little goofball Baris can go to hell. Awesome, MAGA. Yeah, MAGA. Well, you know what? This is what I got to tell you. See me in November. All right. Actually, you won't even have to do that. I'll see you on Tuesday. When you get humiliated in Texas, which you're about to be, just from the primary vote alone, see you there. Again, I can't wait to go over the new tools that we have. It's really, really awesome. You guys, if you were looking at what I'm looking at, you can see it clear as day. This is very, very bad news. I went through how many races to see if there was a positive here. I saw no positive. I saw no positive. This is not, it's just very, very bad. is in North Carolina House 1, which should be a very our district. Let's see it. 33,474 early votes have been counted so far. Okay, so now let's go to the Republicans. Early voting. It's only 29,000. Oh my God. They're outvoting us in District 1, which should be an easy seat for Republicans to hold on to. Not looking like it. See you soon. What are the odds that warmonger Dave Rubin gets monkeypox before 2028? Asking for a friend. Oh my God, I read that out loud. You got me, Lolbertarian. Oh my God, that is something. Yeah, Vivek's going down, it looks like. Maybe Max Blumenthal for that project. Maybe Max Blumenthal. I maybe should reach out to Max. I need somebody credible who's not crazy, who's credible with the left. Why? Because they can't be two right wingers or people who are perceived to be right wing. It has to be people who are from both sides. And of course, I'm representing the right leaning, but it has to be somebody who has a principle enough to go against their own side when their own side is wrong or out of their principles, right? Has to be. The project won't work any other way. And I need someone, because I'm the data person, I need somebody with journalistic skills. Wow, Max Blumenthal actually is a really good candidate. And I've heard nothing but good things from him, from people who know him, even though I've made public attacks against his pop. Whatever, though. Not really. Not really. It's just, But yeah, I mean, he's of the left. So obviously there's been, and I'm old enough to be around for the Clinton era. So of course, Libya. But then again, that actually goes to show you he's been critical of Libya. And yet, yeah, that's interesting. That's USA Now. Thank you for that suggestion. I kind of like that. I'm going to run that by Barnes. Yeah. So, and Dredd, I saw your comment too about Vance. I mean, again, I think what happens is, I wept internally over that meme. Yeah. Again, no, if you think that Vance can do, more, if you're Vance and you think you can do good, why, there's a real argument to make that even though you may not be winning big battles, you're winning some, right? Yeah, MAGA clearly wasn't invited to the party. They stayed in DC, not Trump's private compound. Yep. They're talking about the meeting. Yes, that did happen. All right, with that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks here. Let me start removing stuff from all this studio. I had an issue when I went to go put up the Massey thing. I got to get it up, and I wanted it up for today, but there was somebody told me there was a lot of updates and stuff going on. That may have been it. We did have to take a break from polling because of some updating thing, I guess. I don't know what happened yesterday, but we've been back in it. It's now 3:30. As soon as I get done here, I'll go back. We'll set it up to go back in the field for tonight. Yeah. While I have everybody, don't forget, if you do give to the Public Polling Project, make sure that if you have a reoccurring contribution, make sure it's in the right campaign. It should be Q1 2026 polls. And then if you have ever given to it, please sign in to your dashboard and make sure that if you don't want to make reoccurring contributions, you didn't check that box, because there have been people who have been like, hey, I keep getting money deducted out and we're doing everything to refund everybody, but it's a lot, guys. Please just sign in and check and make sure that if you want to do a reoccurring subscription, do it. But if you don't, please uncheck it. All right. I think some people accidentally check that box. It's super easy. Whatever email you use to make the reoccurring contribution, if you don't remember your password or didn't make one when you made it, you can easily use the email to reset it or set one. And then you want it anyway, because you can keep track of all your contributions to the Public Polling Project. We did that. We built a really cool thing with WordPress Give, which is awesome, because we didn't want to use Give, Send, Go, and certainly Give, Send, Go, whatever. And we certainly didn't want to use GoFundMe. So we needed something ourselves. So that's cool. All right. With that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks. I hope everybody has a great day. I'm going to play a clip from Megyn Kelly, which is Curtis Mills from the American Conservative. And that's how I'm going to take us out here. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Go watch Barnes and Viva over with Jim if you haven't already. All right. See you guys soon.
This is on the right, also warning the operation risks pulling the U.S. into yet another endless war in the Middle East. Here, Executive Director of the American Conservative, Kurt Mills, yesterday on Steve Bannon's War Room.
And I think there's going to be a real desire to keep President Trump in here. I think the president has gotten very poor counsel, and I do think it matters politically that he was the no more endless wars candidate in 2016 and 2024 particularly, and this looks like an open betrayal of the base. And now there's an argument that this is different than the Bush era neocon wars, but I will flag what Bush era neocon is not for this today. Find me one. Name one. Bolton is pleased as hell about what we're doing. He said his only regret is that he didn't convince Trump to do this in 2018.
Quick polling on the strikes is mixed. Reuters finding limited support for them.
No, it's not.
The poll conducted after the strikes began, but before the announcement of any U.S. casualties, finding just 27% of respondents approve, 43% disapprove, 29% say they are unsure.